Those asylum seekers or economic migrants who make it from Sudan to the UK have a 99% chance of being given leave to remain. So I spent several hours talking to immigration chiefs here in Benghazi on the east side of Libya. The Libyan National Army has a very good grip on the immigration problem, albeit fighting against a huge crisis with limited resources. There is a very, very clear process of giving people proper health checks, the life-saving care that they need, and then working out where it is exactly that they've come from. Their message to the UK is that you are fueling this problem. You are effectively advertising a great new life for people from sub-Saharan Africa. They actually said, you know, what do you think happens when a guy from Sudan comes up through Libya and makes his way all the way to the UK and gets put in a luxurious hotel and provided with everything? And make no mistake, it is a perilous journey. We see it from the end point. We see the Channel crossing as the dangerous bit, but actually where these journeys begin is in the hot desert. Many tens of kilometres have to be covered on foot by these migrants, and as many as 1 in 4 do not make it. That means bodies in the desert. The Libyan authorities are having to recover bodies in the desert. About the UK and how much awareness. Please understand the scale of what we are dealing with here with very, very limited resources. Once again, you know, people come in from charities, from NGOs, they use warm words, and the authorities here told me the only thing that we ever get is maybe a few toothbrushes and some nappies for the babies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast Show right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be with you all the way to 10 o'clock. Stand by for 4 fabulous hours of breaking news, views, debate, fury and fun. Get stuck in, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number. And I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, December the 22nd. Here's what's coming up. Britain must never leave the European Convention on Human Rights, and those who worry about the migrant crisis are demonising immigrants. That's the firm view of Mary Ann Stevenson. No, me neither. She's the new chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission. If you want to hear more people spewing the same virtue-signalling pearls of wisdom, I suggest you spend the day in Islington. 0344 499 1000. In other news, ambitious Health Secretary Wes Streeting essentially says current Prime Minister Keir Starmer is going nowhere near far enough in his shameless cozying up to Europe, and that the UK needs to rejoin the EU customs union as soon as possible. In other words, the man who could potentially be PM within months, if not weeks, will destroy Brexit. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. What do you think you voted for back in 2016? Why doesn't this government care that was a democratic decision to leave the European Union? They don't seem to care much about democracy, this Labour lot, do they? 0344 499 1000. Also today, a shock development as we learn at this festive time of year that Father Christmas is, drumroll, too white. According to the Fun Police, in the interests of equality, Santa should work alongside the elves and Mother Christmas should be entered into the frame to tackle the intolerable patriarchy of the Yuletide story. Museum chiefs in, where else, Brighton, also challenge what they call and I quote, the white Western Santa's right to judge children's behaviour. Who the hell is that fat guy in a red suit to decide whether or not kids have been naughty? Father Christmas apparently, and I quote again, asks us to accept colonial assumptions of cultural superiority. Who are these people who think like this? What is wrong with them? 03444991000. Meanwhile, never one to resist the chance to crack down on freedom. Starmer wants to follow Australia by banning social media for the under-16s. Of course he does. And also, the migrants, they just keep on coming after an astonishing 803 foreigners crossed the Channel illegally yesterday, bringing the tally of shame for the week to more than 2,000 and over 41,000 for the year. Shabana Mahmood's crackdown's really going well, isn't it? What do you think? 03444991000. They said she was hard as nails, and boy, God, she's stopping them. She's not doing anything. She's just a useless, another hopeless Home Secretary who can't do a damn thing about it. Leave the ECHR. Don't listen to Mary Ann, what's her name? Who is she? Anyway, she's the new chair of the European Equality Commission or whatever on the human rights. Don't listen to her and leave the ECHR. Otherwise, you're never going to solve the migrant crisis. It is obvious. 03444991000. Also today, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, the Andrew formerly known as Prince, is in deep disgrace now, even deeper disgrace, as it is revealed that he staged, I'm not kidding you, sex and drugs parties at his mother the Queen's favourite country retreat, Sandringham. That's unbelievable. I mean, can he sink any lower? Well, you always say no, don't you? But next week, he's managed it. You can't beat old Andy for plumbing the debts, the moral debts of probity and a lack of decency. 03444991000. Also, the decline and fall of TV star and children's author David Walliams sensationally axed by his publishers amid allegations of inappropriate behaviour around women. This guy is being comprehensively cancelled, massively. Only last week his books for Christmas were being promoted. The BBC was going to show films based on his children's books, Gangster Granny, Billionaire Boy, things like this, children's classics. He sold 50 million copies. He's gone now. It's BBC still deciding on whether or not he will, or his work will feature in their Christmas schedules. Dropped by his author. I think he's been dropped by his agent. He's suddenly, he's suddenly in Siberia. Gone. 03444991000. And I'll also talk to a young woman later in the show who says she was dragooned into transitioning. She was a girl. She was transitioned into a boy, or a pretend boy, but has now gone back to the gender nature gave her, saying that she was in no position to make this decision about her gender, was too young, and yet felt forced into it. Your thoughts on that? 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday morning together. And I can't believe that he's with me in the studio at this ungodly hour. We're looking out at a completely dark landscape in Christmas week. But here he is, former Conservative government advisor, going the extra mile, James Price. Hi, James.
Well, I knew I was top of your Christmas list. How can I be a Grinch to you?
Yeah, I said, whose week can we screw up by getting up at 3 in the morning? I know, James Price. Well, let's get cracking. Lots in the papers today. This one just cropped up, not overnight, only in the last couple of hours. But this is the new head of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, Mary Ann Stevenson, and she has given a big interview saying that we must never leave the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, and that all these people who keep going on about the problems of the migrant crisis and want to solve that crisis are in fact demonising immigration and demonising migrants. Now, this is the kind of claptrap you hear in Islington and Hampstead and North London and the Guardian reading dinner party circuit. You know, it's all very well. I'm sure Mary Ann Stevenson feels very good about herself, polishing her halo this morning. Is my virtue properly signalled? I think it is. But it ignores the reality of what is going on. Look, it isn't racist or demonising or anything like that to say letting in thousands and thousands and thousands of migrants who arrive here illegally on small boats week after week, month after month, year after year, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them, plus the legal migration, which continues at an almost epic level, you know, 600, 700,000 coming in legally every year. It isn't racist or demonising to perhaps say this could present problems, that somehow or other it is presenting problems to British society. And yet we have these kind of great and the goods from the middle classes still coming out with this utter claptrap, James.
Yeah, well, it's not 2020 anymore. We don't have to worry about this sort of nonsense coming. And I think that as depressing as it is to realise that all these sort of fake quangos and all the rest are being staffed with Starmerite toadies for the next few years, and unfortunately we won't get anything fixed or done in this country until we turf Labour out. These are the kind of death spasms of a dying old order, a dying old regime. And Dr. Mary Ann Stevenson, with her very useful PhD in equality law, will find herself a one-term leader of this quango. We should be clear, she runs something, let's see if we can get this sorted around this time of the morning. The EHRC, the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, is defending the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights. And just that kind of acronym word salad is explanatory of why we're in such a mess. Yeah. The only thing we should be worrying about is what is said in Parliament, because we have a sovereign Parliament in this country, and yet we farm out lots of things about laws to the Equalities and Human Rights Commission, whatever that is. I don't remember voting for this woman. And we farm a load of it out again to the European Court and its Convention on Human Rights. I don't remember voting for any of those people either. And especially I don't remember voting for someone who comes along and says the kind of nonsense that you've just said there, Kev. It's absolutely ludicrous.
Yeah, who the hell is Mary Ann Stevenson anyway? I'm sure she's a lovely woman. I'm sure she does very well at all those North London dinner parties. Star of the show, I'm sure. Here she is, voicing her very, very fashionable opinions.
The demonisation of migrants, the creating this idea that migration causes huge risks for the country, can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of minority UK citizens very, very, very difficult. I think leaving the European Convention is a mistake. It weakens the rights that all of us depend on.
Two things to say about this. OK, nobody wants to make anybody's life worse, but why is she so obsessed with the quality of life of these migrants who break into our country illegally, and apparently completely unconcerned with the quality of life of those of us who are citizens of this country, many women in particular, and children feeling threatened for their safety? The tally of sex crimes, sex offences committed or allegedly committed by asylum seekers rising almost daily. Why is her priority just for the welfare of the migrants and not for the welfare of the vast majority, the citizens who live in this country?
Well, I think you nailed it earlier on when you said that she was signalling her virtue, and this concept of virtue signalling, I think, is very, very effective. It's a way of demonstrating that you are a holier person than those not in your cult, and I think it's a useful way to think about the kind of human rights fantasy right now as being like a cult. Obviously everybody believes that people who are humans should have rights, and we have had rights in this country for a very long time. You've got the Magna Carta, and even that was just a reiteration of rights that we held for hundreds of years, even before the Norman conquest. But this sort of modern idea of human rights is something that only unelected bureaucrats and unelected judges can give to the people is completely mad. And I think that there is this sort of moralising. What she just said there has made me go from thinking this is just this sort of silly diversion into something that's really upset me, because she said there that if we're not nice to these fighting age men who break into the country illegally and go on to commit loads of crimes, if we're not nice to them, then British people who are not white might feel that they're hard done by. I think that's a terrible thing to do. I'm sure that most of the people who are not white but are British in this country are as anti-foreign fighting age men breaking into the country and committing crimes as everybody else. But to her, they're all just the same. They're the people that make her coffee in the morning or drive her Uber for her.
Yeah, you should, if you want to get a hard-line view on what we should do about our migrant crisis, you should talk to my newsagent, to my local newsagent, who's from India. He has some very strong views on how to keep these people out. So the idea that somehow or other migrants who are already here and living a good life, a productive life, of segued into our society, somehow feel threatened by our attitude to the migrant crisis. They're with us. They feel threatened, like we do, by the migrant crisis. The migrant crisis is importing ideas that aren't right. I think we are, to some extent, importing a belief that women are second-class citizens. We're importing people who have, shall we say, a rather liberal view on whether or not it's wrong to rape and sexually assault women. We are diluting our culture across, particularly in the north, cities that are barely recognisable from what they used to be. I'm not complaining. I'm not saying that Muslims and Islamic people shouldn't live here, but if you look at some of these cities in the north and towns in the north, they are changed beyond recognition. We are diluting our culture.
Well, it's the attitude of these sorts of unelected poshos from Islington, as you say, like this woman, who make it so difficult and dangerous for the law-abiding, well-integrated British Muslims to get on. My friend, a guy called Mohammed, I was talking to him last week, saying how dangerous it is for people like him who live in this country, who've integrated perfectly. This guy was a Tory candidate for Parliament.
Yes.
How dangerous it is for people like him when you start lumping everybody together. He goes and sticks his neck out, this friend of mine, to criticise groups like the Muslim Brotherhood, who should be banned, because these are people that say, don't integrate, we're going to take over. And that makes it so dangerous for people like him who want to integrate and live a nice, normal life. But then when you have this woman start to conflate these guys who are fighting age men who break into the country and commit crimes, and we know that the defence that their lawyers give when they're put on trial is they say things like, well, he comes from a culture where he didn't know it was wrong to rape someone. And we had a law that was put in.
These are the defences that I don't blame the barristers, but these are the defences they're putting in time and time again. Well, you see, the thing is, although my client viciously, violently raped this woman and then killed her, what you don't understand is he comes from a country where they don't actually think that that's all that bad. He didn't know that we took it so seriously here in Britain. These are the defences that are being put into our courts of the land, that these guys who come here from these foreign cultures, these very different cultures, and rape women here, have to be given an easy ride, leniency, because they didn't understand that we thought it was pretty wrong to rape people.
I didn't realise that ignorance of the law was now going to be a defence of it. That's brilliant. I'm going to go and pretend not to know all these things and go commit crimes? No, of course I'm not. That doesn't work. We put a law onto the statute book a few years ago to ban upskirting. I didn't have to look up what this was. This idea that you take your phone camera and you can
on a tube
or something. And you can put your phone under a woman if they're wearing a skirt and take a photograph of it. That was explicitly made illegal, although I'm sure it was probably already illegal.
This Moroccan must be illegal already. Right. It's kind of a wrong thing to do, folks.
But this Moroccan bloke rocks into the country and he gets done for this. And he successfully got acquitted because his lawyer said he didn't know it was wrong to go around taking pictures of ladies' bits. Come on.
I'm so glad you said that, because we did this story last week and we looked it up. And, it's like, if you go to places like Morocco, they've got no idea about what's right and wrong. They know it's not right to take pictures up a woman's skirt, or in Morocco up a burqa or something. And we looked it up. There is a law against upskirting in Morocco, and yet our courts never bothered to investigate. They just said, oh, the poor guy, it's legal in Morocco. No, it isn't.
And then the defence will always flip in these sorts of places, right? Is they go, oh, well, he didn't know, he's from Afghanistan, he didn't know that rape was wrong, blah, blah, blah. He gets then convicted of being a rapist, and then the defence goes, we can't possibly send him back to Afghanistan because they treat rapists very badly and they'll chop his head off. Well, which one is it?
Exactly. Now, we're going to go to break now, but just the last point about what Mary Ann Stevenson said, we must never leave the European Convention on Human Rights. These people seem to think that if we leave the ECHR, we will abrogate human rights. We're never going to be at all interested in human rights ever again. You don't need to belong to a European club to believe in human rights. We almost invented human rights in this country, and we will continue to believe in it. America, a haven of human rights. Australia, a haven of human rights. New Zealand, all these countries. Last time I looked, they're not in the European Convention on Human Rights, mainly because they're not European. But you see, you don't have to be in the ECHR to be very strong on human rights. All these countries around the world, absolute bastions of human rights, not in the ECHR. So this nonsense that if we leave the ECHR we won't have any more human rights is utter rubbish. We need to leave the ECHR so that we can make our own sovereign decisions. We can't make our own sovereign decisions at the moment about migration because in the end we'll be overruled by a foreign court, the European Court on Human Rights in Strasbourg and Brussels. So that's why we got to leave. If we don't leave the ECHR, we can never, ever solve the migrant crisis. It's as simple as that. Are you listening, Ms. Mahmood? Because you don't want to leave, so you won't solve it either. Let's go to break, and when we come back, find out why Father Christmas is way too white.
For our country, for policing, that we can't trust our policemen not to lie, and I think we all suspect the reason they're lying, and that's the power of a community led by extremists, particularly the local MP, one of the MPs for Gaza, as they're nicknamed, who from the moment the draw was called was demanding that it was called off. And the mere fact that 700 police officers were deployed, even though there were no Tel Aviv Maccabi fans there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, mobile and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going to talk about they want to Father Christmas too white, colonial. Everything is wrong about him. He's a symbol of patriarchy. Got to get a bit Mother Christmas in. He should be working with the elves. And there are people who actually have spent time thinking about this. They are, of course, in Brighton. Where else? We'll talk about that in just a second. But I thought you might be amused if you wisely didn't tune into the Royal Variety Show last night on television. It's never a good idea. I used to have to go to that every year. That's annually 4 hours of my life I'll never get back. It goes on forever, I'll tell you. So boring. The royal family, the Queen used to hate it, but King Charles the same. But anyway, last night an impressionist, mimic, came on and did, admittedly, I can do a better impression of Keir Starmer than this. It's a really terrible impression, but the audience got what he was on about. Oh, he's doing an impression of our Prime Minister. So it's not really about the impression. They're not booing this impression, although they probably should be. But I tell you, they're booing the whole concept of Keir Starmer. Listen to this. Who is that guy? That's terrible. But yeah, the whole audience burst into a crescendo of boos. The guy is incredibly unpopular, and we've got Wes Streeting, the ambitious health secretary, all over the Observer yesterday. Massive, great, moody pictures of him walking through the forest and looking ready for business, ready for action at number 10 Downing Street. And he gives a quote saying, "I don't know why anyone would want to be Prime Minister like he doesn't want to be."
I almost admire the fact that he's got such brass balls on him, Wes Streeting, that it's just so obvious and transparent what he's trying to do, which is, of course, why it won't actually work for him. He's not the most popular member of the cabinet amongst Labour members, terrifyingly. That's Ed Miliband.
Yeah.
I mean, goodness me. Then you've got Angela Rayner.
Second most popular.
Right, with her crayons out, currently writing her memoir. And you've got this guy who's going to lose his seat at the next election to some Islamist anyway. He almost lost it at the last election. But I'm not surprised with the booing of Starmer. It happened at the darts as well, I think, the other day. Yeah. And a friend of mine who does a lot of focus groups, so you cannot mention Keir Starmer's name. You cannot mention Rachel Reeves's name.
Because the reaction is too explosive.
It's too explosive. You can talk about anything. You can, it could be about, a cup of tea, a cup of coffee instead. Well, Mr. Starmer likes boo, and it'll be 58 minutes of people just screeching about how, I think rightly, awful a job that Starmer is doing. And Streeting's not going to do any better. He's off doing this photo shoot in the woods, as you say, whilst the doctors are on strike in the NHS.
Yeah,
He's the health secretary.
Get round the table. Stop the doctors' strike, Wes. Stop worrying about getting into number 10, because you're not going to make it anyway, despite all of your machinations and desperate tactics to get in there. You're not going to make it. But so you're right about Angela Rayner. She's been keeping a very low profile lately, as you quite rightly say. She's working on her first book, and I'm told she's almost finished colouring it in. But
it'll be great to have a politician who's written more books than she's read.
Yeah, there used to be a guy when I worked on the Mirror. There was a guy called Harry Harris, a good reporter, very good sports reporter, and he was always churning out books. And they said, poor Harry's written more books than he's read.
Amazing.
He was the guy who once wrote Bethlehem, Home of the Legendary Jesus. You can take the sport out of the reporter, but just before we go back, still with Starmer, he never sees any crackdown on freedom that doesn't attract him, does he? So Australia is now banned under 16-year-olds, or everybody under the age of 16, from going anywhere near social media. Sir Keir wants to do the same here, we're told.
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a little bit of sympathy for this. If you look at someone like a man called Jonathan Haidt, who's a researcher in this in the United States, who's the person who's documented just how bad an effect on children's health, genuinely, this is not like, oh, my mental health, but genuinely how bad social media is for these kids. It's seeing impossible standards to live up to, and the bullying that takes place and all the rest of it. The problem is, I'd have a bit more time for Starmer talking about bringing it in here if, as you say, Kev, he hadn't been so draconian, cancelling elections, trying to abolish jury trials, arresting 30 people a day for adults for saying things on the internet. Because if you start rolling out technology to ban it for kids here, how long before, well, you're not allowed to say that on Twitter anymore, let's ban Twitter, how long before there is that creeping authoritarianism that Starmer loves so much?
Yeah, exactly right. It just sort of seems to play into this increasing feeling that we're being ruled by this sort of tyrannical dictator.
Right. The thought experiment is what if Reform or the Conservatives had announced half of the measures that Labour had announced? They'd be rioting in the streets, calling them dictators.
Yeah, exactly right. I'll tell you what we'll do now. I promised you that we talk about Santa being too white. I'm sure you've all been losing a lot of sleep about it. So you can get a bit more sleep. We'll be back in about a couple of minutes to discuss, to tell you exactly why Santa Claus is too white, and he's a symbol of colonialism, isn't he? Obviously, and oh my God, the patriarchy. You've got to do something about that. Why isn't he working with the elves? I mean, there are grown adults who've been thinking about all of this, and they've come up with this conclusion that the trouble with Father Christmas is he's too white. I think the trouble with Father Christmas is he's too fat, and he's got really bad tasting clothes. I mean, who would wear a suit like that with the white trim? I mean, what an idiot. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Father Christmas now. He's too white. This is according to Brighton and Hove Museums, the bosses thereof. On their website, they've called for Santa to work alongside the elves in the name of equality, and for a Mother Christmas to be introduced to the story, to the festive story, in order to tackle the awful patriarchal nature of the Yuletide saga. Also, you see, Father Christmas, you know, in terms of kids who've been naughty and kids who've been nice, the nice kids get nice presents, the naughty kids don't. That is a Western binary that teaches children that the colonizer has the power to judge all people. They go on to say that told like this, The story presents Santa as the ultimate authority of all societies. No, it doesn't. This asks us to accept colonial assumptions of cultural superiority. So these people who work at Brighton and Hove museums, and let's face it, they're representative of a certain type of person across the country. They need help, don't they? They do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, look, I'm just so glad that finally, right, we don't have to worry about the debts, we don't have to worry about the Chinese Communist Party, we don't have to worry about AI or any of these things, that someone is finally tackling the big issues, right? And this guy, not only is he, what is he, a colonist, Father Christmas?
He asks us, or his story asks us, to accept colonial assumptions of cultural superiority. Goes on to say they've got practical suggestions, though, to be fair.
Good.
They've said that a good idea would be to have Santa learn about different cultures rather than judge them. Does he judge them? Stories could show him experiencing their traditions, emphasise cultural exchange rather than assessment. So what they're furious about is that, you know, old Santa goes around on his sleigh with a reindeer making judgments on kids. You know, you've been naughty, you've been nasty. This apparently is appalling. And of course, why is he so white?
Yeah, well, I'm quite with him, because, you know, he tends also, weirdly, to give the more expensive presents to the children of richer parents as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And, of course, he's an example of toxic masculinity, because St. Nicholas, the real St. Nicholas, back in the, 3rd century, at the Council of Nicaea that decided what would go in the Bible, got up and slapped another one of the church fathers, Arius, so very aggressive from him. And not only that, he takes sponsorship, because his clothes used to be green until Coca-Cola started putting me in red, and so that's now American capitalist imperialism as well. Terrible. Thank God these guys are going to get lumps of coal for Christmas. Oh, no, that's bad for the environment.
Yeah, and also it's black, racist. This red thing only dates back to the red and white, dates back, as James says, to the 1930s, where Coca-Cola turned Father Christmas into an advertising campaign and put him in this red and white outfit. And so the red and white beard idea of Father Christmas only dates back, about less than 100 years.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Thank God. These guys aren't going to get any Christmas presents come up, are they? Maybe for Christmas they'll get a real job.
Honestly, these people really do need an inclusive adaptation. This is suggested amendments to Father Christmas's story. They could include people from around the world in Santa's workshop. This acknowledges global input. Put Santa to work in the factory alongside the elves. This shows him as the elves' equal. An inclusive adaptation could include many Santas from different regions. Well, there's only one, you idiots. Include some Mother Christmases. Patriarchy and colonialism went hand in hand. Show the next generation that men don't have to be in charge.
Look, these people need Jesus, which is just as well because he's going to be born in a few days and we can remember the real meaning of Christmas, not whatever this nonsense is.
Exactly right. Do you know what Spike Milligan used to do every year?
Go on.
He used to phone Jesus College in Cambridge and he used to say... as people do, is that Jesus? And they go, yes. And you go, happy birthday to you. What else should we do? Let's, what about this shoplifters? Shoplifters, I think this is in one of the papers. Well, no, let's do this one because it's big on the mail. Albanian king, this is an interesting story, this Albanian kingpin. Smuggling criminals out of the UK. I've heard signs of this before, that we're used to people smugglers, bringing them across from France, but apparently they offer a comprehensive service the other way for people who want to secrete themselves out of Britain and then come back in.
Right.
So this notion that people smugglers only traffic people one way, according to the Mail today, is wrong. Criminal migrants are avoiding justice by being smuggled out of the UK. Daily Mail investigation found an Albanian who should be behind bars himself running a network helping crooks flee for £2,500.
It's like these great stories, urban myths of a cabbie, he's sitting on the Strand or something, and bloke gets in and says, can you take me all the way to Paris? Okay, fine me. And he drops himself off in Paris. It's always, couldn't take me to London, could you? It's the same thing. You're smuggling people in, smuggling them out. We can't stop people getting into the country. We can't stop people getting out again. Yeah. And I suppose in some ways it's a good thing if these guys are getting out ahead of time. But I don't think the idea of them missing out on justice is particularly good. Although we should look at what happens in the United States now the Trump administration is back in. Because not only did they seal up that southern border and have prevented illegal crossings down to almost nothing, and they've got these sort of ICE teams who do these raids to deport the violent guys and capture them. Most of the progress they've made, and sort of almost 2 million people have chosen in the United States to self-deport rather than kind of get nabbed off the street and beaten up by the ICE agents and forcibly taken off. They've got a chance to self-deport. That's much easier, it's much cheaper, it's much smoother, and we should be creating that kind of environment here as well. I would just rather it doesn't go to line the pockets of an Albanian kingpin in the process.
Absolutely. This is sort of tail end of this story. This is the front page of The Sun today. Now B snubs Andy. This is about Princess B in a quandary. The King has invited her to Sandringham. Obviously, Andrew's not allowed this year. He's going to miserably go around Windsor Great Park on that horse. He's always getting on that horse, sort of trotting around Windsor Great Park. And then you see him in his Range Rover or something, driving, out of Windsor Great Park. And I always think, where's he going? Where exactly is this guy going? Anyway, I wanted to discuss with you, B doesn't want to snub her parents who've invited, Fergie and Andy have invited her to Royal Lodge for their last Christmas in Windsor Great Park before he goes in disgrace to Sandringham, to some cottage there. She doesn't want to let them down, but she doesn't want to embarrass the King by going to see her parents, so she's just going abroad. She's going to avoid both of them. But this is the tail end of a remarkable, the Epstein files. I'll be honest with you, folks, I'm starting to get a bit bored with the Epstein files. Oh, look, here's 30,000 more pictures. None of them prove much at all. Oh, here's Bill Clinton in a hot tub with a redacted female next to him. OK, it's not a good look, but it's not a crime. So, it's getting a bit silly. However, this new tranche of pictures, we're told the final set of pictures and information, includes this incredible picture of Prince Andrew in his dicky bow, in his tuxedo, to be fair, across the legs of a bevy of beautiful women. Right, with his face very close to the thighs of one woman. OK, so you'd say, wow, a bit of hijinks. Now, that's at Sandringham. Now, where we learn that when he said that one time Jeffrey Epstein went to Sandringham for what Prince Andrew called a straightforward shooting weekend. What is that? What is a straightforward... As if all of us go, a straightforward shooting.
Oh, right, as opposed to shooting up. Thank God for that, yeah.
Anyway, well, you say they're shooting up.
Oh, no.
I'm sure it wasn't quite as bad as that, but it turns out that this guy took Epstein there and that he staged sex and drugs parties at his mother, the Queen's favourite country retreat. Apparently in the loos there. We're going to be talking to royal author Robert Jobson later on in the book, whose book The Windsor Legacy reveals all of this. In the loos for this weekend were the sex drug poppers. Those poppers to improve your sexual performance, various lubrications, sex toys, a bevy of beauties. He turned Sandringham into a citadel of sex and drug sin. Now, the journalist in me goes, wow, what a story. But the sort of British citizen in me goes, are there no depths of depravity below which this awful man Andrew would not sink or will not sink?
I mean, I don't know about you, I hate it when I go on a straightforward shooting weekend.
Yeah. And what is a straightforward shooting weekend?
And I pop into the downstairs loo for a pee and suddenly there's a load of sex toys and all the rest of it in there. Hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
Every time I get close to almost feeling a scintilla of sympathy for Andrew. It's tough at Christmas and maybe some people have difficult families and they've got to shuttle between different parents and all the rest of it, like Princess Beatrice does there, then stories like this come out. You just think, why did someone not nip this in the bud? Why did someone not put him back in the army or send him off to be an ambassador in some kind of tiny island somewhere and stop him from embarrassing the firm and the country at large in such a way? Because we've got Andrew and Prince Harry, two of the main people now that the Americans associate with us, and most of the people around the world do as well, and surely we're better than that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to find out. Richard Kay's written a big piece for the Mail saying, you'd have thought by now that the royal family were used to the shame that Andrew has brought on them. But these new revelations that came out in the Epstein files over the weekend, that he turned Sandringham into a venue for sex and drugs parties, here we are. It's here, folks. It's Daily Mail, and that's page 22 and 23, and the headline by Richard Kay, a man who really knows the royal family. How this tawdry picture, taken in the inner sanctum where the royals watched the King's speech, means Andrew will cast a dark cloud over festivities despite his banishment. In other words, it was felt that he could bring no more shame on the royal family, but he's only been and gone and done it with this picture. That he actually, he took Epstein there, he took Ghislaine Maxwell, he took all these beautiful young women, draped himself across them. Apparently in the loos there were sex drugs, the poppers, there were lubes, sex toys. This was Sandringham. I mean, what?
It's absolutely extraordinary, isn't it? I still never quite understand, getting to the bottom of this, how it was that this guy, Epstein, was able to make so many friends in such high places, and what the connection really is. And that's the bit that's never been fully explained. Why was it that this bloke, and just because he's rich, suddenly was so in with Peter Mandelson, Labour's choice for ambassador to America, and Bill Clinton, and all these people? I don't quite understand still why it was this guy was able to be so connected. It still feels that there's more to come out of that story.
I don't think there's any doubt whatsoever there was some kind of blackmail thing going on, that he lured people into his spider's web to get information, to have power over them. I'll give you this underage girl, and by the way, I'll probably film you. You don't know that, but then I've got you. Some of the stuff that came out about Epstein in the latest release, which was the final release over the weekend, was that he would demand that the girls were underage. That would be one of his provisos. I want to, he would, in writing, say, I want them underage. And also, there was all this sort of, we have supplied a female to so and so, and all this. So these, we've got this is Bill Clinton and Ghislaine and some other girl swimming in one of Epstein's pools. I mean,
How can you be so stupid if you're Bill Clinton? I mean, I know that he's not exactly known for his ability to be abstemious when it comes to interns or anybody else. But you just think, how can you be so stupid?
Well, there were two things.
Round-the-clock CIA protection and all the rest.
There were two things you could never keep Bill Clinton out of. One was McDonald's and the other was women. Let's go to break. Let's talk about politics. Let's talk about Kemi Badenoch apparently closing in on Nigel Farage. She's doing better, but I think it's a long shot. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's listen to a quick voice note, shall we? This is from Matt on Keir Starmer.
Morning, Matt from Warrington. I went to Christmas market in Chester yesterday, and there was a market stall selling socks with Keir Starmer is a merchant banker, or words to that effect. Hilarious. I think they sold out. Great show. Have a Merry Christmas. Bye.
Merry Christmas to you, Matt, as well. Very good point as well. Socks with Keir Starmer on. Oh, my God. Keir Starmer is a merchant banker. All words to that effect. Quickly before we get on to this sort of development on the Tory reform front, James, we talked about West Streeting just now, but, we know that Keir Starmer, almost ever since he got into power, has been diluting Brexit as much as he can. We need to, what's he called it, we need to reset our relationship with Brussels. No, that's not what we voted for. We voted for having no particular relationship with Brussels at all. We don't want to be closer, we want to be further away from them. In this rambling interview that he gave to The Observer yesterday in his Wellington boots in the forest, West Streeting said, implied, but as good as said, the trouble with Keir Starmer is he's not cozying up to Europe enough. He effectively said, if I become Prime Minister, we will rejoin the customs union. Labour's desire, an ongoing project to destroy Brexit, continues apace.
Yeah, I mean, both Wes Streeting and the walking embarrassment that is Ed Davey, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, has managed to make Keir Starmer look quite statesmanlike, which is no mean feat, given he is the merchant banker that chap Socks said that he was. I thought
it was a human rights lawyer. I didn't realise it was a merchant banker.
I don't know what human rights lawyer will become Cockney rhyming slang for one day.
Is there anything?
It'd be nothing nice.
Does anything rhyme with lawyer? Let me know. 03444991000 and make it clean.
But Ed Davey asked him the same question about rejoining the customs union, and Starmer made the point that I'm going to make now. And Starmer obviously is such a ghastly Ramona that he tried to push for a second referendum and all the rest of it. And I voted leave, and I can tell you, just as Starmer did, that if we were to rejoin the EU customs union, not only would we not have any say on our trade policy again, we would be totally in hock to Brussels, which of course is what people at Streeting want.
The table.
No votes, because then the logical next step is, well, we better rejoin then. But as Starmer at least pointed out, if we did that, it would invalidate the trade deal we've got with America, the trade deal with India, all the other trade deals we've got around the world, the really great, actually very good deals with Australia and with Japan and all these other countries, and prevent us from doing it. So again, we go from being a rule maker to a rule taker. We go to being a supplicant. And maybe if we had a kind of deal like that with the United States, which is about 66% or something better off than we are now, average Brits there, it might be worth tying ourselves into the American economy because it's still growing so much. Yeah. The EU isn't growing at all. It hasn't grown at all since the financial crash. So why would we tie ourselves in to this tired, sclerotic, dying organism where we actually have a deal with no tariffs with the EU and go and make these better deals with the rest of the world? That's obviously a superior position, and I'm not surprised that some idiot like Wes Streeting can't understand that, or won't, because he cares more about the politics of it than the welfare and the well-being and the prosperity of his fellow Brits.
It's a funny thing with these Labour people, isn't it, these cabinet ministers? They don't think that democratic decisions by the people matter.
Of course not.
They know better. Actually, the people need to be protected from their own baser instincts. We're going to hell in a handcart with this lot, I'll tell you.
That is the socialist mindset, right?
Yeah,
and anybody who
people are wrong.
Right, who made the mistake of voting for the Labour Party listening to this, I hope will never make that mistake again. They don't care about you, and you are only tools for them to express their actual ideology. Yeah. That's all that matters to these people.
Exactly right, exactly right. Now, Kemi Badenoch, your leader, the leader of the party that you still support wholeheartedly, James. She's a new poll reveals, and I'm not surprised about that she is closing in on Nigel Farage in terms of her popularity. That's because she's had a very good month. She's, in the past month, particularly after the budget and since then, at the ballot box in particular, plus her initiatives, she's been a sort of whirlwind of activity. Has been pretty impressive at tackling the government, at showing the government up for the disaster that it is. So she's on a roll per se. I just think she's left it too late now. And despite her improved performance, I don't see how the Tories can go into the next election with her in charge.
Well, it's a long, long, long way until the next election. Who knows what happens? We may end up with all different party leaders. We may end up with all the same. I think probably guaranteed that Starmer won't lead Labour into the next election, but we'll see. As you said, Kemi's had a really good couple of months. That response to the budget, her conference speech was excellent. She's learned how to do PMQs now.
Yes,
and no longer make Starmer look
which is more than
fleet-of-foot.
Starmer.
Exactly right. Starmer's been having 5 years of it.
Starmer, his response to everything in PMQ is, what about Liz Truss?
Yeah, exactly.
Liz
right,
Truss. Liz, shut up!
Followed by for quite a while as he leafs through his book of notes thinking there's a magic answer in there for him somewhere.
Yeah, waiting list down. No, they're not.
No, they're not. No, he lies, of course. That's
free
his
breakfast clubs, they're not free.
Nothing free under the sun.
Nobody cares about them anyway.
So I think what's really good is that with the rise of the Reform Party has pushed the Conservatives to a much more sensible, hardline position on immigration. And I think what's going to happen now, and what is happening now, is the Conservatives, which is still the most trusted party on the economy out of any, are pushing reform into a better place on that. Richard Tice has had to come out and say something even as much as the pensions triple lock needs to be looked at. They've junked a lot of the spending and taxes they couldn't talk about. There's still some silly stuff from Zia Youssef about part nationalising Rolls-Royce, which I just think is a ridiculous distraction. It's a fantastic company. So you're seeing a better competition with these two parties on the right duking it out and the Tories gaining some ground. I think that is fabulous. I think that needs to happen for at least another year or so. We'll see what happens, of course, in May next year with the local elections and what happens there. But I think the problem will be if we still have two parties on the right who are fighting it out with each other, if they can't work out some kind of, either one party destroys the other or some kind of agreement or something, it's the only way that this rancid Labour government is ever going to get a second term.
Let me ask you this, with the invitation to 63 councillors to consider whether or not they want to actually have local elections in May, the invitation by the government. Of course, these are invitations to administrations that would lose their power if they had these elections, so it's pretty obvious what their answer is going to be. 63, will there still be a lot of other local elections apart from these 63 councils where there'll be boundary changes?
Yes, so there'll still be in Wales and Scotland, principally in May, and there will be other ones as well. It's all about what we have at the moment is not a uniform set of powers across the country. So there are some areas with metro mayors, there are some unitary authorities, and then you've got the tiering systems of county and district and either city or borough or parish or whatever else it may be. I understand there's some wisdom in trying to rationalise all of that, but Labour's decision to ban these elections or to postpone them again has been criticised by the Electoral Commission itself as not a good enough reason in order to stop these elections. Remember that weeks after the final victory over Japan at the end of the Second World War, we had elections.
Yeah, I know,
it was spread over a couple of days, but there were servicemen all over the world, and we managed to hold an election in the midst of the Blitz and the rubble of World War II. We can do it now. I mean, Starmer's pretty bad. He's not quite as bad as the rubble-strewn country in 1945.
I should stress Labour's standpoint on this is that because of boundary changes, if they had all of these elections, some councillors would only retain their seats for a matter of weeks, so it's better to wait until reorganisation has happened. That is Labour's standpoint of this. Many people feel it's just because Keir Starmer is very, very frightened of what might happen at these elections that he'll get a shellacking. It'll look very bad. But the point is that, A, doing this plays right into Nigel Farage's hands, and B, because of the other elections, it's still going to look very bad for Labour. They might as well, you know, be hung for a sheep as a lamb on this one. Another very bad move very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely right. And it's only going to help Nigel Farage say that these people are scared of democracy. It's only going to do good on the Tories, people like Robert Jenrick and Alex Burkhardt for coming out and saying that the other Conservative councillors should go against this as well. Democracy is not a nice to have. Our liberty is not a nice to have. It's essential for our country.
Absolutely. Fabulous first hour from James Price, who was nice enough to get up at the crack of sparrows to be on this show. Thank you very much, James. Very happy Christmas to you and yours.
And you, my friend.
When we come back, we're going to be talking to Robert Taylor about all the latest news, so stick around for that.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the second hour of this morning's breakfast show. I'm with you all the way until 10 a.m. It's still dark as hell out there. Not a very nice day. At least I doubt it is. Who knows? Sun's not up yet. What sun? There won't be any sun. For some reason, I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and I am with you until Wednesday, actually. I'm going to be doing breakfast every day this week until Christmas Eve. And then, bizarrely, I'm going to be doing next Sunday as well. Breakfast. No one knows why, but in the middle of my holiday, I'm going to be doing next Sunday. So if you happen to be up the Sunday after Christmas at 6 a.m, I'm your man. I'll be there. Anyway, I hope you all have a great week, because most people are already off. We're not, but most people are already off this week. I hope you have a fabulous Christmas. This is the week to forget about it all, but there's a lot to forget about Let's go through some of the things we'd rather not think about, we'd rather forget about, but we have to confront for the next 20 minutes or so with Robert Taylor, political columnist. Welcome to the show, Robert.
Hello, Kevin.
First of all, this is a story we covered an hour or so ago. It's on the front page of the Telegraph today. It is this one there. And don't call migration a threat, says the new head of the Equality and Human Rights Commission. She's called Mary Ann Stevenson. She was picked to succeed Baroness Faulkner as the head of this organisation, the Human Rights Commission. And she says that if you are worried about the migrant crisis, if you think migration is a threat to Britain, then you are demonising migrants. And she worries very, very much about that. And we must never, ever, she says, even think about leaving the European Convention on Human Rights. Let's have a listen to Mary Ann Stevenson. Who is she? Has anyone ever heard of her? Not me, but here is the great Mary Ann Stevenson.
The demonisation of migrants, the creating this idea that migration causes huge risks for the country, can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of minority UK citizens very, very difficult. I think leaving the European Convention is a mistake. It weakens the rights that all of us depend on.
Does it? Does it weaken the rights that all of us depend on, Robert? I don't think it does. I don't see why you have to be a member of a European club to believe in human rights. She's just propagating the fashionable North London Guardian reading dinner party circuit view. This is just halo polishing nonsense. And it is not racist or demonising to fear that the scale of our migrant crisis is a threat to the Britain that we know, is a risk, is a threat to basic safety. Am I right?
Well, there are two things she said there, and I think they're both wrong, to be honest. I'm not quite sure who's advising her on this. But first of all, that the European Convention on Human Rights means that we have rights in the UK. Well, we're going to have rights in the UK anyway. I mean, it's not as though if we left that European Convention, suddenly we wouldn't have gay rights, for example. Of course we would. We just have our own gay rights rather than a European Convention on Human Rights. So she's just wrong on that, and it's obvious she's wrong. As for this one about migration not being a threat, well, I mean, she's wrong on that as well. We've had 10 million more people, net migration to the UK. It's something like 10 million more people since the turn of the century, causing enormous pressure on public services, enormous pressure on housing, anything from getting a doctor's appointment to queues and public transport, enormous pressure. And for her to say this is somehow not a threat, never mind the whole multiculturalism aspect to it, is clearly absolutely bonkers. As I say, Kevin, I'm not sure who's advising her. She's fresh in this job, and she just said two things have hit the front pages and have irritated a load of people. Great start, I would say.
Exactly right. And, I mean, what's she talking about? We risk demonising migrants, demonising ethnic communities who come here and all that sort of thing. It's not, nobody wants to demonise these people who are here. I wish them all the best and all that. But why is it that this woman is so concerned, with the welfare of the people who broke into this country illegally? She talks about them. She talks about our ethnic citizens of this country as well. Now, those people, yeah, of course we should prioritise their welfare. But why is this woman, Mary Ann, so keen on prioritising the welfare of people who break into our country illegally over the welfare of the citizens who are born, bred and live here?
Well, exactly, and we understand. Was it something like another 400 or 800 people came across the channel?
803 yesterday.
803 yesterday, so 40,000 for the year today. I think it's the second biggest amount on record. All that stuff about smash the gangs, well, that's a load of old baloney, isn't it? But, I mean, of course it's a massive threat. And for her to suggest otherwise is just denying the obvious. She's apparently, we understand, a left-wing economist.
Is she now? There's a turn up.
So no big surprise to anyone that she's coming out with this stuff. I really think she needs to be better advised on what she says early in the job, so that she doesn't set a narrative that goes against her interests.
Yeah. Before she was appointed, Ms. Stevenson, I keep saying, who is she? Where'd they get these? But she's government approved, so you know that much, and you can see why. But anyway, she has previously, before her appointment, lobbied the government to abandon its smash the gangs policy to allow more asylum seekers into the country, comparing criticism of refugees to, and I quote, hostile politics, racist rhetoric and demonising language of the past. So she, while Keir Starmer was pointlessly going on about smashing the gangs, of course he never did smash a single gang, so I don't know why she was getting her knickers in a twist about this, because it never really happened. But she didn't like that. She didn't even like the idea of potentially smashing human smuggling, people smuggling gangs, because she wanted to let more asylum seekers into the country, and believes that any criticism of refugees is hostile politics, racist rhetoric and demonising language. I mean, she is just a cliche all wrapped up in one, isn't she?
She does seem to be. And I would like to know how she would like to facilitate all these asylum seekers coming into the UK. You're showing pictures on your screen now of those horrible, flimsy boats that go across the channel, sometimes capsize and people drown. Well, is she suggesting we should encourage more people to risk their lives across the channel? Is that what she's saying? I don't think that's terribly humane from someone who's apparently running the Equality and Human Rights Commission.
Absolutely right. And a quick word from you on the scale of this migrant crisis. Now, not so long ago, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, or was it 3? I can't remember. But the new allegedly hard as nails Home Secretary, Shabana Mahmood, unveiled her plethora of crackdown policies that she was going to, stamp out the migrant crisis. She knew how to solve this crisis. Of course, like the rest of those Labour idiots, she will not and does not want to leave the European Convention on Human Rights. So in the end, whatever she says implies that she's got sovereign rights over the decisions she makes. She hasn't. In the end, there's a court in Strasbourg that can overrule her and will. The ECHR, the European Court on Human Rights. Anyway, she came up with all these this will do it, this will do it, this will solve the problem. Anyway, as of not Friday just gone, 2 Fridays ago, so 10 days ago, whatever, the Labour politicians were beginning to boast. You see, 4 weeks. 28 days, not a single migrant has come across the channel. You see, 1 in, 1 out. That deterrent is starting to work, all of that, but Shabana's crackdown, it's starting to happen. And then the following day, 737 migrants came across the channel. That was last Saturday week. And since then, more than 2,000 capped off by 803 yesterday. Nothing this Labour Party is doing, nothing this latest hopeless Home Secretary is doing is having any detrimental effects at all on the migrants. As soon as the weather's all right, they just pile across. Those 28 days, where it's the longest period of time we've ever had for about 10 years, that no migrants came across the channel. Nothing to do with Labour's policies. That was 4 straight weeks of stormy weather. As soon as the weather broke, which was last Saturday week, Mill Pond, 737 and then 2,000 over the preceding week. Only the weather stops them.
Well, that's absolutely right. And I think it was with you, I was talking a couple of months ago when One In, One Out came out first of all, and we were saying this isn't going to work. It's completely obvious it's not going to work. Just like Smash the Gangs was never going to work. Because you've always got this incentive. If you smash one gang, another gang will come along because of the enormous amount of money that's available. One in, one out actually meant sort of, 20,000 in and one out or something like that. It was just crazy. It was never going to work. So all these initiatives that Labour come up with, very glib, very easy in opposition, when they get into government, it's a whole lot more difficult. And I tell you what, Kevin, I really do think this Labour government owes people an apology for suggesting that somehow it was going to be easy to end these channel crossings. It isn't, unless you're prepared to take very hard action. That's the only way it can be done.
Yeah, for more than 41,000 so far this year. As you say, they brought in the one in, one out deterrent at the beginning of August. I think since then we've sent back under that scheme to France about 150 migrants, something like 70 have come the other way. That's it. But since the beginning of August, something like 12,000 more migrants have crossed the channel illegally. As a deterrent, it simply is not working. We do not have any deterrents. Ever since Starmer ripped up impetuously and ludicrously the Rwanda scheme on day one of his useless administration, there have been no deterrents. We only have enticements. So as long as we're offering these people when they come across the channel, as soon as they get here illegally, we give them 50 quid a week benefits, we give them free food, free 4-star hotels, free dentists, free doctors, free lawyers, and free God knows what else. No wonder they keep coming. We have no deterrents, just enticements. This government hasn't got a clue what to do.
And it's going back to that Rwanda thing. Now, it's now 18 months ago, but Rwanda was beginning to work. We know, for example, that migrants were going all the way through the UK to the Republic of Ireland in order not to face the Rwanda deportation possibility. And the Irish authorities were complaining about it and saying they're coming to us because of Rwanda. So we know that Rwanda was beginning to work. And yet, as you say, Kevin, day one of his administration, that catastrophic effort, that catastrophic initiative to abolish Rwanda, which was the only possible disincentive we had at that time. It was an idiotic decision, and I'm afraid it's coming back to haunt the Prime Minister and this government.
Exactly right. Now, very quickly, this is the story of our times, the story of the way we deal with illegal migrants. This is a migrant drug dealer granted permission to stay in the UK because he was a star pupil when he was at school. This guy's called Mohammed Izan. He's 22. He was spared deportation after winning an appeal on the grounds of his mental health against his removal to Pakistan on November the 11th. But they really, really look into these people's background because a day after he was allowed to stay, he pleaded guilty via video link from jail to sexually assaulting 2 women in a busy Norwich High Street in broad daylight in June. He was fined £200 for the offence. Had been sentenced to 30 months in prison for his role in a sophisticated drugs ring, and his deportation was signed off in May 2024, but he was allowed to stay even though all of this was available in information to the Immigration Tribunal. This is madness. The day after he was allowed to stay, he was convicted of sexual assault and was in jail for drug dealing.
Yeah. So this was a Daily Mail story today, I think, wasn't it, Kevin? That was this one is I think quite tricky because he's actually been here. This now he's a young man since the age of 7. So that's when I understand his family came to the UK. So it's not like, he came across on a boat last year, where it's a much more cut and dried case. In this case, this guy has been here since the age of 7, obviously schooled in the UK. Has hardly ever lived in, I think it's Pakistan where his family came from, I think, Kevin, that one.
Yeah.
So
Pakistan, yeah.
Yeah, on the face of it, when anyone commits a sexual assault, of course, absolutely appalling, and we want something to happen. But this one's a bit more tricky because just sheer the length of time he's been in the UK. I think there's an argument, Kevin. I hate to sort of disagree with you on this one, but I think there's an argument that it's our problem because he's, basically spent
couldn't agree with you less, Robert. Upper Tribunal Judge Luke Bullpitt. It rhymes with... No, I shouldn't say that. He refused the Home Office's request to deport this guy, noting that Ijan was a star pupil at school and he suffered mental health problems, of course. And if he was removed back to his home country of Pakistan, there was a risk that he might use drugs again. Oh, well, in that case, let him stay. We can't have him returning to drugs in Pakistan. I know what you mean. He's been here since seven years old, but he's still here because of our generosity. And if he wants to abuse our hospitality like this, we should be able to send him home, I think.
Yeah, I completely agree with you that the fact that he might, abuse drugs in Pakistan is not a reason for not deporting someone. It's really his history here that I think is the bigger issue.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's worth... They don't seem to have talked about this. It was just the possibility that he might use drugs again, and he suffered from mental health issues and he was a star pupil at school. That's why Judge Bullpitt decided to let him stay. Judge Bullpitt. You couldn't make this stuff up, could you? A quick word before we go to break, Robert, from you on Wes Streeting, big interview in The Observer yesterday, outlining in essence his view that Keir Starmer, in cozying up to the EU, resetting our relationship with Brussels, wasn't going far enough, and that Wes Streeting, potentially our Prime Minister, maybe within weeks, maybe within months, potentially, that's what he wants anyway, would not only cosy up to Brussels even closer, he would take us back into the customs union. He would destroy Brexit then.
Yeah, well, this one, you and I definitely will agree. I think I was pretty appalled to hear that. It's clearly political calculation on Streeting's part. He's sucking up to the left of his party, who all want, of course, to rejoin the EU. They thought that leaving the EU was the most massive mistake caused by ignorant people voting for Brexit. It's a load of nonsense, of course. And Streeting is trying to get their support. I think going back into the customs union would be utterly disastrous, never mind a betrayal of Brexit. But I think politically it's quite astute of Streeting, because he knows that this is one area that Keir Starmer is afraid of going that far because of Starmer's red lines before the election. We're not going to go back into the customs union or the single market, said Keir Starmer, and Streeting can outflank the Prime Minister on this. Politically sensible, outrageous in terms of its Brexit betrayal.
Absolutely, and although Streeting wants to take us further left when it comes to Europe, there are others waiting in the wings who are more likely to succeed Keir Starmer, and that is Ed Miliband, the dreaded double ungolden ticket of Ed Miliband and Angela Rayner. And God knows what they would do to us. So, yes, we want Starmer to go, but careful what you wish for. Whoever replaces him could be a whole lot worse. I know that's hard to imagine, but it's possible. Robert, fantastic to talk to you. Very happy Christmas to you. Robert Taylor, political commentator and columnist there. When we come back, we'll talk to Henry Bolton, international border control expert, on the migration crisis, the Albanian kingpin who's smuggling migrants out of the UK back to the continent, and the French police chucking tear gas at migrants trying to launch a little boat near Calais. Makes a change, doesn't it? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
honest. It was her sitting on a sofa, nothing interesting going on, her posing with strangers on a street. But I just wonder whether she was encouraging this friendship with Jeffrey Epstein because she knew that they desperately needed money because she was the one spending all the money. She was the reason they were in so much debt in the first place. And I just think Sarah must have been turning a blind eye. You know, obviously, we know that Andrew wasn't really turning a blind eye because he was pictured with Virginia with his arm around her.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. We've got lots to talk about, particularly on the migrant crisis front, which is his speciality area. International Border Control expert Henry Bolton. Morning, Henry.
Good morning. Good morning.
Well, first of all, front page of the Telegraph today. We've been making a lot of this so far this morning. There is a new head of the chairman. She's the chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and her name is Mary-Ann Stevenson, and she is saying that we mustn't call migration a threat. That all this worrying, all this loud shouting and screaming about the migrant crisis demonises migrants and makes life uncomfortable for them here, and that's all wrong according to her. And most importantly, we must never ever leave the European Convention on Human Rights, because that means we would no longer have human rights in this country. What do you think this woman's on about, Henry?
Well, I'm not quite sure. She doesn't know a great deal about the subject, does she? Yeah. Look, from my direct experience, when I was leading UK efforts to disrupt transnational organised crime, particularly people smuggling across the Balkans, the reality is that the people who are moving through the region to the UK are economic migrants. Now, that's, they've been painted in a different light by many people. That's true. However, that's the fact. And the reason we see predominantly men crossing the English Channel is not because it might be a recruiting ground for organised crime, terrorism, whatever, but it's because in the cultures that they come from, whether it's in Africa, whether it's in the Middle East, whether it's in Central Asia, Afghanistan, and so on, are cultures in which the men work, the women don't. They stay at home. In the mud compounds, I mean, I've been to these places. It is the women stay at home. They do not work. The men, wherever they can, they go abroad, and there's a history of it throughout for centuries of economic migration. Central Asia itself is packed full. Russia is packed full of Tajiks and Kazakhs and Kyrgyz men who emigrate to Russia with the purpose of working to send money home. It's the same here. And that's why we're seeing these people. So these people, first point, is that they are trying to milk the system in the United Kingdom. They are not refugees. Refugees have correct legal routes into the United Kingdom, like the Ukrainians. These people are economic migrants. And if the problem is that we here are the sixth most wealthy country in the world. Europe is a wealthy continent, and we have been living, all of us, in a bubble. We don't understand how these other cultures operate, what their social norms are, and how they actually do these things. So that there is part of the problem. You get people like this lady who now are coming out with this naive, ill-informed opinion and position on things that, quite honestly, doesn't touch reality at all. Yeah. Then you've got the other thing is, we know for a fact that many of these people come over and are immediately recruited into organised crime. I know from my own work that some of these people are extremists, fundamentalists and terrorists. I know that because I have detected their movement when I was working on these intelligence matters.
Can we talk about some of the numbers here, Henry? Because yesterday we found out that 803 migrants came across the channel over the weekend. This started, we went 4 weeks, 28 days without any migrants coming across the channel at all. Labour were beginning to crow about how their deterrents were really starting to take effect. This was last Friday week, so 10 days ago or so. Suddenly, the following day, last Saturday week, 737 came across. There's video emerging there of the French police that morning throwing tear gas at migrants trying to launch a small boat near Calais. This was in the early hours of a day when 737 came across. This past week, until yesterday, more than 2,000 came across. 803. We're just watching people chasing migrants around the beach with canisters of tear gas there. Very effective, I'm sure. But the scale of it is massive. What the past week, more than 2,000, taking the total tally for the year to over 41,000. What it proves is we have no deterrents. Nothing is stopping these migrants coming across except for bad weather, right?
Absolutely correct, Kevin. Absolutely correct. I mean, the last few weeks, I mean, when Labour and Labour Party activists, particularly Labour MPs, who should know better, start trying to mislead the British public that this wasn't down to weather. I was posting videos. I mean, I live down on the south coast. I live in Folkestone in Kent. And I was posting photos of the beach. If anybody wants to launch a boat into that, you're welcome to try. You're not going to get more than about 50 metres in one of these dinghies. The other thing is that the sea temperature was such that after about between 30 seconds and 3 minutes, you would not be able to control any of your muscles. You would lose consciousness within half an hour. You'd be dead. I mean, you know, that's the reality in this water. So there was two things. There was the combined waves and the sort of the sea state, if you like, but not only were they likely to get swamped and end up in the Ogden, but they were also likely to die as a result, more likely than at other times of the year. So combine those two things, the risk wasn't high, it was suicidal. So that's why they didn't move. It's got absolutely nothing to do with any deterrent that exists.
That's because we don't have any, Henry. We don't have any.
There is no deterrent. Kevin, I've said for a very long time that because if you don't define who these people are correctly, you're not going to define the solution either. These people, being economic migrants, are going to continue to enter the United Kingdom illegally because they don't have a legal route. I'm not advocating a legal route because these are unqualified people who don't qualify for a legal route. They are going to continue to come as long as the United Kingdom provides them with an attraction for doing so. And in 99.9% of cases, that is because they can earn money, either immediately, in the medium or the long term.
Or more to the point, be given money, 50 quid a week, be given free accommodation, free doctors, free dentists,
So they
free lawyers, free absolutely everything. Henry, a point taken. I've got to move on, though, but good to talk to you. Henry Bolton, international borders expert there on the ongoing shambles of the migrant crisis, which over the past week has got a whole lot worse. More than 2,000 in 7 days. 803 over the weekend in a single day. 803. 737 last Saturday week. Huge numbers coming across, and an armada of illegal migrants unlawfully crossing the channel and pitching up on our shores. What's to be done? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, we'll talk about the Epstein files. This great, huge tranche of pictures has been released. The final pictures, we're told, 30,000 or more. Lots of powerful men in uncompromising positions or compromising positions, particularly Bill Clinton, Bill Gates, Steve Bannon, you name it, they're all being photographed. Now, there's no suggestion in these photographs that people are breaking the law or doing anything massively wrong, but it's not a good look for some of them. We'll talk about the American angle next, but in these pictures released was an astonishing picture of Prince Andrew in his tuxedo, draped across a load of short-skirted women at Sandringham, staging what he called a straightforward shooting party. Apparently in the loos were a selection of popper sex drugs, poppers to stimulate your sexual appearance, lubrications and sex toys. That's what he did to the Queen's favourite country resort. What do you think of this man, Andrew? What do you think of him? I mean, I can't say what I think of him on a family show. 03444991000. Let me know. We'll talk about the American angle next, though, with LaDonna Harvey over in Arizona. That next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's discuss two sides of the Epstein Files story. You know, the more and more pictures being leaked out. The final huge tranche of photographs was released over the weekend in Washington. And you know, loads and loads of pretty compromising pictures of powerful men with redacted women, all their faces blocked out. But no sort of silver bullet. No one actually found to be doing anything. There's some pretty depraved, horrible things, but not illegal. So we'll talk about the American side of things first, and then we'll talk about the British side, which is the release of this picture of Prince Andrew at Sandringham, which opens up a whole new can of worms. It really does. That, for me, is the big picture. But first of all, let's go over to the Arizona Morning News host, LaDonna Harvey, over there at K-Star Phoenix. LaDonna, good morning for our point of view anyway.
Kevin, how are you?
I'm very, very well. Good to have you on board. I'm going to talk about the British side of this in just a second, but over there in the States, I mean, people are getting very, very worked up, but the trouble with these pictures are, although they're not a good look, here's Bill Clinton in a hot tub with a very red face with a redacted woman. You see, that is a very bad look, but it's not illegal, is it? Right. So all of these pictures, whilst they don't put a lot of these powerful men in mates and friends of Epstein in a good light, they're not exactly sort of life-destroying, are they? That's the problem, right?
No, they're really not. I mean, I think obviously the Mountbatten-Windsor, formerly known as Prince, is probably the person who's taken the brunt of it, and that's mostly because he stayed friends after the conviction. Everybody else, it makes you wonder, because he did call Andrew, what was it, a useful idiot. I think everybody to him was a useful idiot, including Ghislaine. Everybody was a useful idiot. He was there to get their money, to get access to them, and to hopefully put them in a compromising position. Period. End of sentence. He needed leverage against power, and these are some of the most powerful people in the world.
And the Democrats who've been dripping these pictures out were forced to put all of them out this weekend finally. They always hoped that they would somehow ruin Donald Trump, didn't they? But in fact, they haven't, have they, at all? There's one picture that people said should have been released, which is one of the president, or when he was younger, when he wasn't the president, with a bevy of beauties, as it were. But again, I mean, you know, that picture that they redacted, it doesn't actually prove anything. Here's a picture of Donald Trump with some beautiful women. I mean, you know, it's nothing really, is it?
No, I mean, who doesn't know who Donald Trump is by this point?
Yeah, exactly.
He didn't hang around ugly people. He hung around beautiful women. It's, you know, he ran the Miss America or Miss World or whatever it was, Miss Universe maybe. I can't even remember. You know, he is that guy. They don't have anything that will absolutely convict him of some crime, just as they don't have anything on anybody, which seems amazing to me considering what went on in some of these places. I mean, you know, Andrew's lucky he didn't get bounced back to, you know, Saxe-Coburg status at this point. You know, he's lucky he got to keep Mountbatten-Windsor.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
But, you know, he's the one who has really taken the brunt of it. And I'm not really sure why, because I think that there were a lot of men in very powerful positions who were doing the very same thing as Andrew and probably gave Epstein access to far, far more government power than Andrew did.
Exactly right. Well, LaDonna, thank you very much. Good to talk to you and a very happy Christmas to you. LaDonna Harvey there, the host of Arizona Morning News on K-Star Phoenix. Let's go straight over now to deal with the kind of homegrown angle of this, what went on at Sandringham, to talk to royal biographer and expert Angela Levin. Good morning, Angela.
Good morning.
Now, you know, I was just talking that most of these pictures from the Epstein files, frankly, you know, they're sort of quite titillating, but they don't really amount to very much. Oh, here's a powerful man with some beautiful women. Hey-ho. Here's Bill Clinton in a hot tub with a beautiful woman. Hey-ho. But this picture, this black and white picture from Sandringham of Andrew, OK, dressed in his tuxedo, draped across the laps of beautiful women, with Ghislaine Maxwell looking on. Jeffrey Epstein was there. This was at Sandringham, Her Late Great Majesty the Queen's favourite country retreat. Andrew went up there for what he called a straightforward shooting party, whatever the hell he means by that. I mean, as if any of us have any concept of what a straightforward shooting party. But the point is, what this was, it seems, was a sex and drugs party. There were a bevy of beautiful women there. There were powerful men. Epstein was there. Ghislaine, his pimp, was there. And apparently in the bathrooms were sex toys, lubricants, and proper sex drugs. I mean, he did this at Sandringham, and as Richard Kay has written in the Mail tonight, if you thought that Andrew's antics had cast a dark cloud over the royal family, you take a look at what they're going to be like this Christmas with this latest shocking revelation of what he did at Sandringham. I mean, this for me is the big story of the Epstein files, what Prince Andrew did at Sandringham with Epstein and the gang. Absolutely, stunningly shocking, I think.
Well, I mean, it is disgusting, but at least he's got clothes on. There's nothing there that shows us with him with his clothes off. So, you know, you can have a joke. I'm not saying he would have a joke because he's not a particularly nice, clean thinking man, but he's got all his clothes on. So I'm not quite sure that this is just a joke. I think what he's got in the bathrooms is disgusting, and he should know better. And he's behaved incredibly badly for the royal family. But you know, you need.
I agree with you about the photo. The photo itself, you know, is not that shocking, but it's where it was taken and what was going on at the time. So the picture is just an indication of what was happening. He took Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, a load of beautiful girls, who God knows who else, to his mother's favourite country retreat where she spends Christmas every year, to have a sex and drugs party. That is shocking. That is, you know, this was a guy, we didn't think we'd learn of anything that would take him any lower, but we just have. He's just reached a new depth, extraordinary.
Yeah, you see, the problem has been that he had his mother round his little finger, and so he never felt that what he would do, she would be really cross about. You know, he'd just hide it. He would just do it quietly. I mean, it is disgusting, and particularly there. I wonder, were they there at Christmas? Was it where all the royals were at the time? Or
no, I think it was a weekend that he hosted. As you know, we've all been to them, Angela. It was a straightforward shooting party.
Yes.
Whatever that. What is a straightforward shooting party?
Yes.
I think Andrew thinks that all of us have shooting parties at the weekend, doesn't he?
Yeah. Well, he hasn't got any understanding of behaviour. And he hasn't had for years. And this is another one which is probably goes at number one, disgusting. But there we are. I mean, he just encourages all sorts of people to behave very, very badly.
He certainly does, and this is a new low. Just before you go, let me ask you about this story that appeared in the papers yesterday, which I found interesting, that Harry and Meghan, their charity, Archewell Foundation, is deeply in the red, £1.8 million, I think, in the red.
Yes.
And that is, they say, is because over the past year or so, it has racked up £3.3 million worth of expenses. Now, we don't know this for sure, but it is believed that a lot of those expenses were the gruesome twosome Harry and Meghan's pretend royal tours to Nigeria and Colombia. These weird pretend tours where they act like they're official royal tours, but they're not. So the assumption is that racked up the expense. So if that is true, their trips where they pretended that they're on a royal visit to Colombia and Nigeria have plunged, or helped to plunge, Archewell Foundation charity fund into 1.8 million into the red. I mean, that's not very good, is it?
No, both of those countries, though, got very fed up with Meghan and Harry because they did think it was backed up by British, and so that they
were official
pay for them.
Towards it, yeah.
Yes, that they would pay for them. And then, because of the cost of the planes and everything else, these are poor countries, and they stopped paying. So that's why that happened. And I think they have themselves to blame, because what a disgusting way to be, to spend a load of money so that very poor countries actually can't get on properly because you have expensive dresses and flights and protection. And so, you know, you've made the thing very difficult. Absolutely. They just said, no, that was it. So now they're in a terrible state. But they cover it, don't they? They pretend everything's fine, but they're not. They've got to they've sacked 3 more staff. There won't be anybody very much to help them. And changing the title, is meaningless, actually.
Oh, yeah, they tell you to Archewell Philanthropies, haven't they, for some unknown reason. But if it is true that people who've been donating to Archewell Foundation were in effect funding these a pair of imposters pretend royal trips to Nigeria and Colombia. I mean, that's close to a scandal in my view.
They hold on to what they're doing with their papers of how much they're spending it to the very, very last minute. And by the time they bring it out, it's too late to change it. This is very cunning, very, very cunning.
That's not why people donated, to send them to Colombia and Nigeria.
And have golden... I don't know, everything. Jewelry, non-stop.
First-class style, exactly. Angela, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Angela Levin, royal biographer there. When we come back, we're going to talk about the story that the majority of Jews do not feel safe in this country anymore. We'll talk to Stephen Silverman, Director of Investigations at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. He is Stephen Silverman. Welcome, Stephen.
Good morning.
Your thoughts? The majority of Jews, British Jews, do not feel they have a long-term future in the UK and are considering leaving the country. 61% of the Jewish community here are thinking about moving abroad. This is up from 50% this time last year. Bad enough this time last year, now up to 61%. We only have about 280,000 Jews in the country. More than half of them are considering leaving this country. We should hang our heads in shame at making these British citizens feel like this, shouldn't we?
Well, what you've seen is the impact on British Jews of over 2 years of watching on helplessly as anti-Semitic extremists have been appeased, Jewish concerns about their own safety have been ignored, young people being increasingly radicalized,
seeing our institutions becoming infected with anti-Semitism, watching the collapse of law enforcement in these areas, and successive governments standing by and doing nothing. And so what you have is a situation where a group of British citizens who have been integrated into this country's life for hundreds of years now, and who have been patriotic and who have contributed to this society, feeling that it is no longer safe for them to exist here. And you're right, it's a shameful day in the history of this country.
It really is. And the police last week saying, right, well, enough is enough. We're going to crack down on these pro-Palestinian marches, in other words, these Jew hate marches, for some of the chants, particularly globalised the Intifada, but also from the rivers to the sea, the jihad chants. We're going to start arresting people. We're going to have a zero tolerance policy on that. I'll believe that when I see it. But while they say that, if you go down to Somerset, the Somerset police have still not charged. They've spoken to him, I believe, Bob Vylan, or the Bob Vylan, the band that chanted "Death to the IDF" at Glastonbury in front of millions of TV viewers. That's calling for the death of Jews. Why do you think, if the police say they're going to crack down on chanting in these marches, why haven't the Somerset police done anything about this band that in front of millions of television viewers and indeed hundreds of thousands of concert goers chanted for the called for the death of Jews? Why have the Somerset police, do you think, done nothing about that?
You have to look at the role of policing over the last 2 years, and indeed before that. I mean, think back to 2021. When you had a convoy of cars driving through Jewish areas of London, shouting vile slurs and calling for, quote, Jewish daughters to be raped. The history has been one of the gaslighting of the Jewish community over what is actually going on, over what we could see with and hear with our own eyes and ears, and appeasing anti-Semitic mobs. This week's announcement of tougher action over one chant by just 2 police forces is too little too late. And if you listened to what Mark Rowley said when he made this announcement, it's simply delusional. The context has changed. The context hasn't changed. We were warning 2 years ago that these chants would lead to the deaths of Jews on the streets, and it has now around the world. So you know, what about the other chants? What about Bob Vylan, as you rightly say? What about all the other police forces? And of course, it came hand in hand with the launch of a meaningless action plan by the government, which just consisted of a load of reheated policies that could have been implemented ages ago. So still, even in the immediate wake of this atrocity in Australia, we are still seeing just, you know, warm words, statements that anti-Semitism doesn't belong, and very little action that looks tough enough to deal with it.
And on September the 21st, I think it was, both the United Kingdom and Australia simultaneously recognised Palestine. 12 days later, here in Britain, in Manchester, there was the synagogue atrocity. And now we just had Bondi Beach in Australia. There's a direct correlation, isn't there, between the rewarding of terrorism, the rewarding of what Hamas did on October the 7th by recognising Palestine, and these atrocities against Jews?
Well, it's a perfect example of how, if you have anything other than zero tolerance for any kind of hatred, it leads to a nightmare scenario. The words were never clamped down on. It led to verbal assaults of individuals on the streets, then violence, and then murder. And of course, it's been a step-by-step emboldening of murderous extremists. So, you know, if you reward terrorism, you get more terrorism. And declaring the support for the state of Palestine while Jewish hostages were still being held, tortured and murdered in dank tunnels in Gaza without any requirement for Hamas to stop doing that was the ultimate reward. So no, you know, people might be acting shocked and surprised. It's no surprise to the Jewish community. We knew this is where we would end up.
It is a real shocker. But listen, Stephen, I want to thank you for all your excellent contributions to my programme over the year and wish you a very happy Hanukkah. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Happy Christmas.
Happy Christmas as well. Stephen Silverman, Director of Investigations and Enforcement at the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism. When we come back, more of the general stories that are happening today with Reform UK's London Assembly member Alex Wilson. That's coming up next. And we're also going to talk about David Walliams, his fall from grace. The man is being comprehensively cancelled. But why? All of that still to come. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is the third hour, isn't it? 8 o'clock, isn't it? Yeah, my God, it's 8 o'clock already. Time flies when you're enjoying yourself, doesn't it? Anyone else up? Anyone up there? Who gets up this time? It's Christmas week. Only I get up. And my top team there in the production room. We're all up. Anyone else up? 0344 499 1000. But lots of big stories around, and in a little while we're going to be talking about David Walliams, who over the weekend has suffered a spectacular fall from grace, suddenly being dropped by HarperCollins, his children's book publishers, part of this company, part of talkTV's company here at News UK, here by London Bridge on the banks of the Thames. So HarperCollins is in the same building as us, same company as us. They suddenly axed David Walliams' contract on Friday, and this was after an investigation alleging that he was inappropriate around women. The publisher just suddenly dropping him, saying he will no longer be working with us. And now the BBC is under pressure to drop his films from their Christmas schedule. He appears in the Boxing Day edition of the BBC panel game show Would I Lie to You? So far he's still in it. Although they have apparently edited out a hilarious interlude where he was doing spoof Nazi salutes. That's not in the show anymore. The question is come Boxing Day, will the show still be on? Will David Walliams still be on? Because the guy appears to be going through one of the most comprehensive cancellations known to man. Suddenly, he's persona non grata. So we'll talk about that in a little while. But first, let's talk about some of the political stories, some of the big stories with Reform UK's London Assembly member Alex Wilson. Welcome, Alex.
Morning, Kevin. So you're up, your team are up, I'm up, my dogs are up.
That's it.
Let's hope some people are watching back
your
home
dogs
as well.
Your dogs are tuning in as well. The audience is going up. Yeah. Now, seriously, let's talk about West Streeting first, shall we? Story on the front page of the Times here this morning. There it is, saying Streeting backs Britain rejoining customs union. So as part of his obvious bid to become the next Prime Minister, to take over from Keir Starmer, maybe within weeks, maybe within months, if at all, but he wants to, he detects that one of Keir Starmer's problems in terms of the Labour membership is, as Keir cozies ever closer up to the EU in Brussels, West Streeting said he's not going far enough. West Streeting is saying that if he became, is essentially saying if he became Prime Minister, he would back Britain rejoining the customs union, which is an absolute betrayal of what the people of this country voted for, right?
Absolutely. So lots of things to unpick there. Firstly, on the issue itself, you're absolutely right. By rejoining the customs union or the single market, or indeed any other approach to go back to having closer integration with the European Union, it's a disgraceful betrayal of the 17.5 million people who voted to leave back in 2016, the biggest expression of democratic participation in British history. So that's the first point. Secondly, I know Wes Streeting really well. I was a councillor alongside him in Redbridge Council. Obviously, we were in different parties. And I know him very well. I stood against him in the general election last year. There is one thing that drives Wes Streeting more than anything else, and that is personal ambition. And that's exactly what this is about. He's seen an opportunity here, less than 2 years into this shambles of a government. I mean, we shouldn't be in this position, but we are. 2 years in, less than, and it's falling apart. And he's seen the opportunity. He's got an eye for the main chance. And looking at what Labour Party members think, he kind of sees this almost as like a sort of political G-spot, I guess, for the Labour membership. He's latched onto it. It's got nothing to do with the merits of the case whatsoever. And it's everything to do about positioning himself for that leadership challenge when it comes.
I agree with that. I suspect he's not going to make the grade anyway, despite his overarching ambition, his personal ambition. He's already seen as too much of a Starmer acolyte by the party faithful. Most of the Labour Party are far more left-wing than the Cabinet, which is saying something. They like Ed Miliband and Angela Rayner. That's who they want to run the country, and that's who probably will, which doesn't even bear thinking about. So Streeting is unlikely to make it, but he's doing his level best. What do you make, Alex, of this new leader of the European, our Equality Human Rights Commission? She's called Mary Ann Stevenson, and she says that we've got to stop demonising migrants. We've got to stay in the ECHR, and our attitude to migrants is racist. And she wants more and more asylum seekers to come into the country, but mainly wants to stay in the ECHR. Take it away, Mary Ann Stevenson, whoever the hell you are.
The demonisation of migrants, the creating this idea that migration causes huge risks for the country, can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of minority UK citizens very very difficult. I think leaving the European Convention is a mistake. It weakens the rights that all of us depend on.
First of all, I would say that our migrant crisis is a risk to this country. It's a risk to the safety of people in this country. It's a risk to this country culturally. We're being diluted by this invasion of constant invasion of more and more foreigners, both legal and illegal. So I think she's kind of wrong there. And in terms of the European Convention on Human Rights, this idea that if we left that cosy little European club, we somehow as a country would have no interest in human rights is a nonsense. What about the non-European countries who are very committed to human rights? America, Australia, New Zealand, etc. They're not in the ECHR. They're obsessed with the human rights. It's nonsense, isn't it?
100%. I mean, what this shows is how catastrophically out of touch the human rights industry, for want of a better word, is with the concerns of ordinary British people who are paying for this on a daily basis and who have very, very genuine concerns about safety, particularly about women's safety and young women and girls in particular. Where we have these migrant hotels, there are lots of issues that have arisen around it, and we see the stories raised every day about it, and people have got a right to be upset and concerned about it. So for her to dismiss those concerns is absolutely outrageous. So it's not surprising. But what it also shows, though, remember, this is a lady who has been appointed to this role by this Starmer government. So for all the talk and warm words coming out of Shabana Mahmood and the Home Office, the underlying attitude of this government to this problem is that is espoused by this lady and by the likes of Lord Hermer. If Starmer was really serious about smashing the gangs rather than just smashing the records for a number of illegal crossings, then they wouldn't be making appointments like this. You would actually be looking to leave the ECHR. That's the biggest stumbling block to us being able to secure our borders and have a fair but firm migration policy. And so appointments like this confirm, prove beyond any reasonable doubt whatsoever this government simply is not interested in doing anything other than talking. It certainly isn't interested in actually tackling the problem, stopping the boats, getting back control of our borders. That's why we need a change of government. We need a general election, and we need it now.
Got any idea who Dr. Mary Ann Stevenson is? Because I haven't. I'm just looking her up now. She's been active in the Women's Budget Group for 20 years. She was appointed as its first director in 2017. That's the Women's Budget Group. We all know about that, don't we? No. But prior to this important role, she specialised in women's equality and human rights and has been director of the Fawcett Society and a commission on the Women's National Commission. She is a trustee of Coventry Rape and Sexual Abuse Centre and of Just Fair. All very impressive, I'm sure. But I come back to my original question, Alex. Who the hell is she?
Well, I understand the other thing that she's been calling for is a wealth tax to fund a more accelerated pathway towards net zero. So again, that tells you how out of touch she is with reality. A wealth tax that will drive away innovation and entrepreneurship and creativity from this country. We're already seeing more high net worth individuals leaving London than any other Western European city, indeed any other city apart from Moscow. That's how bad things are potentially with the economy. We've seen the growth figures out today, 0.1%, i.e. basically no growth, as a direct result of the catastrophic budget decisions made by this government. So, another high tax advocate. Brilliant. That's what we really need, isn't it?
Exactly right. What are your feelings? There are stories out today saying that Keir Starmer, who's never seen a crackdown on freedom he doesn't want to get involved in, has seen Australia banning social media for kids under the age of 16 and is very interested in bringing that idea into play in Britain as well. I'm against that. Where do you stand?
I think it's a terrible idea. Look, the growth of social media and smartphones is not without some problems, and you've seen some young people suffering from cyberbullying and mental health issues and so on. So it's not a problem to be completely dismissed, but an outright ban is the wrong approach. I mean, I favour, I think, Catherine Birbalsingh, her school in Brent, she bans the use of phones during school hours. brilliant. That's exactly how it should be. But in your free time, social media, the internet, all these things are generally positive things, and people shouldn't be excluded from them just because they're below a certain age. But it's symptomatic of Starmer's attitude to everything. It's about clamping down on individual freedom. We've seen it with, as we were talking earlier on about, I know, okay, it was Wes rather than Starmer, but undermining the result of the referendum from 2016. That's no surprise. Now, actually, this government wanting to cancel local elections, so denying people their democratic right to vote for their local authorities. We've seen the Digital ID, Online Safety Act, scrapping jury trials, all these issues. This government, the mindset of it is very much against individual liberty, and I think that's just wrong.
Yeah, exactly right. Social media, there's no doubt it can very often be very bad for kids. There's no doubt about that. But I'm not sure that I fancy a blanket ban brought in by a tyrannical government. I think this is the job of parents. They're the ones who should be teaching their kids whether or not to use social media. And I'm not sure, that we should be preventing kids from getting anywhere near social media. It's not all bad, so not that happy about that. It's another sort of authoritarian move by this government. Let's go back to the migrant crisis, Alex. 803 migrants came across the weekend. 803, massive amount pouring over on Saturday. Now, that brought in a week the total to over 2,000. So, if we go back about 10 days to last Friday week, the Labour MPs in Kent were beginning to crow about, 28 days, not a single migrant has come across the channel. That means that the one in, one out, now various other deterrents are really starting to work. Well, they don't really have any deterrents at all, because the one in, one out scheme is just a national joke, an absolute waste of space, not working at all. So no deterrents. So the day after, they're boasting about 28 days without a single crossing. The reason for that was bad weather. Suddenly, last Saturday week, the channel was a mill pond. 737 came across. And then all the way until Saturday just gone, more than 2,000, culminating in 803 on Saturday. I don't know what happened yesterday, but huge amounts coming across this week. Shabana Mahmood's crackdown not having any effect at all. They all want to stay in the ECHR, European Court of Human Rights, which means we can't make our own sovereign decisions about what to do about our migrant crisis. If we don't leave the ECHR, we can't even start to solve this, can we?
Absolutely. And as you said, the numbers and the change in the numbers over the last few weeks is entirely down to the weather. Look, December is often a quieter period for these crossings because of the bad weather, and that's what prevented those crossings for, I think, what you said, 28 days. But as soon as the weather cleared up, the sea was calm, and then we get huge numbers. I think record numbers for days in December on those crossings over the weekend, and smashing that 41,000 threshold is only because of that poor weather earlier in the month that we haven't already smashed the 2022 record of 45,000. There's still time for that to happen between now and New Year. But you're absolutely right. The deterrent of one in, one out, it's nonsense. It's not a deterrent at all, because it's one in, one out, one back in again, and it's ridiculous.
150 we've sent back since the beginning of August when they launched.
A drop in the
Meanwhile,
ocean.
about 12,000 have come across illegally. Yeah. Not really working.
And you've seen over 60,000, well over 60,000 since Starmer became Prime Minister. He's not smashing the gangs, he's smashing the records, and he's smashing his own credibility. And most importantly of all, he has already smashed any last residual amount of trust that the British people can have in him and his government.
Exactly, couldn't agree with you more, Alex. Last point to you, last question to you. Apparently, offensive Christmas song lyrics could be banned under Labour's employment laws. So if you sit in your pub, you enjoy a good old sing-song, songs that may not be allowed under the Employment Rights Bill, Baby It's Cold Outside, which has faced criticism from the Me Too movement. Do They Know It's Christmas? You know, the Band-Aid song, which has been accused of stereotyping the continent of Africa. And Jingle Bells, which for some reason is said to have racist origins. All of these songs may be banned by pubs because landlords, if the staff feel offended, risk being sued under Angela Rayner's employment rights bill. So you can't sing these songs in pubs, otherwise the landlord might get sued. Welcome to Starmer's Britain. Crazy.
And one of my personal favourites, the Fairy Tale of New York, as well. Again, you know, could be victim to this potential consequence of the Employment Rights Act. This you know, so-called banter ban. It's ridiculous. Because, you know, but it shows, again, the mindset of this Labour government. They don't understand business. They put more and more burden onto business, small businesses. The hospitality industry is being absolutely decimated, initially by lockdown, which, you know, I opposed vigorously. Now we have, you know, the national insurance tax hike. Now we've got business rates changes, which are going to kill pubs and hotels and restaurants as well. And now on top of that, you know, once you actually got customers in the door paying, but suddenly if they start singing a particularly, you know, popular Christmas song, then there's the risk that your staff could end up suing you because you're not creating an environment which is supposedly free from harassment. It's absolutely bonkers. But everything this government touches turns to nonsense. We've got to get them out. And, you know, it's a long wait between now and the general election, but it can't come soon enough.
Absolutely. And talking of pubs, just before you go, Alex, 200 pubs have backed the campaign to bar Labour MPs from their saloon and public bars because the government has made life so difficult for the hospitality industry. And I saw on the front page of the Mail on Sunday yesterday that Rachel Reeves's local pub in her constituency, I think it's called the Marsh Inn, they've banned her from ever setting foot in that pub again. So landlords are barring Labour MPs all over the country because Labour policies, as we've just discussed, are making the hospitality industry pretty much impossible. Pubs are closing at a rate of knots.
Yep. Well, I'll be going to a pub later on today to do my bit to try and help out.
That's very selfless of you. It takes a bit of discipline. I think I might join you. Alex Wilson from Reform UK London Assembly member, thank you so much for your time. Next up, let's talk about David Walliams. The man is being cancelled like there's no tomorrow. For him, professionally, doesn't look like there is a tomorrow. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
They're all friends. Now, Epstein,
Bill Clinton and Bill Gates, by the way. I mean, I'm concerned that Andrew is being used as a human shield in this story when those two very public American men have a case to answer themselves and yet look to be getting away with this scot-free.
Yes, and Jeffrey Epstein was an extremely clever man, the way he manipulated people to get what he wanted. He was, using his financial background and sort of helping all sorts of very rich American businessmen and women.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, suddenly on Friday, all of a sudden, HarperCollins, part of this company, part of the same company as Talk, the publishers, cancelled David Walliams' children's author contract. Now, this guy has sold more than 60 million books for HarperCollins. He's a veritable cash machine, so cancelling him was not an easy decision. This followed an investigation. HarperCollins have been investigating him, but so had the Telegraph. And the allegation is that David Walliams was so inappropriate around women that he cannot carry on being HarperCollins' best-selling author. So he's gone. The BBC is now considering whether or not to show his films of the versions of his film versions of his books, like Gangster Granny, Billionaire Boy. These have been Christmas favourites. Also, he's lined up to be on Would I Lie to You, the panel game on the BBC on Boxing Day. They've already edited him. He's making some jokes about Nazi salutes. Always a funny area of humour, isn't it? He's a master of mirth, David Walliams, master of mirth. So that's been edited out, but he's still in it as things stand. But will the BBC axe him altogether? My God, he's being cancelled. Let's talk to entertainment reporter Beverly Lyons. Morning, Beverly.
Morning to you, Kevin. How you doing?
I'm all right. I mean, he has suddenly been comprehensively cancelled. He's had his problems in the past, he had to quit Britain's Got Talent after he was recorded making unpleasant comments about people in the audience and also contestants. He had to go because of that. He actually sued Britain's Got Talent successfully because he said that was a breach of his data privacy rights. That was successful, but he was cast into oblivion TV-wise then. Now with his publishing deal gone, he's suddenly been completely cancelled. The BBC now considering taking off his films of his children's books, and his appearance on the Boxing Day special of Would I Lie to You is also under a cloud. He's going. He's being hugely, comprehensively cancelled, right?
Absolutely. Now, this has been something that has been brewing, as you say. Again, we have to be careful with all of this because we say allegedly, because David Walliams does not take this lying down. As we've seen, he's already gone to court in the past, 2022, when the Britain's Got Talent comments came out and he sued, as you say, for a data leak. Now, this time, and there has always been talk of inappropriateness online rumours, and these were rumours because you know what X is like, what online chat rooms are like, all that kind of thing. But this time it appears that something has gone further with a colleague of his, and there's been an out-of-court settlement behind the scenes. Re this with HarperCollins. Then, of course, we hear about the Nazi salute, as you've just said, for the Christmas edition of the show. So that's also left question marks on whether the show will actually be aired at all. I know that the segments have been cut out, but there's also been lots of accusations in the past about inappropriate comments in his books. talking about Chinese stereotypes, calling people fat, I suppose, making fun of people who have grown up in poorer circumstances and all this kind of stereotypical stuff. And it's really just accumulated now to this huge thing. Of course, blackface with Little Britain, accusations for which he has said in the past that, you know, he apologises, and it certainly wouldn't be done now, along with his co-star on this. David Walliams, has he got a lot to worry about? I mean, look, he's banked, we hear, around £17 million. He currently is in the Bahamas, and he is showing pictures of himself.
Maldives.
The Maldives, yes, sorry. It's all exotic. I'm trying to recreate that with my palm tree in the background. But the point is, he's not worrying too much, it appears right now. Remember, there's also a world of self-publishing out there. So yes, HarperCollins.
I don't think anybody has buys books now. HarperCollins said on Friday, after careful consideration under the leadership of its new CEO, HarperCollins UK has decided not to publish any new titles by David Walliams. The author is aware of this decision. HarperCollins takes employee well-being extremely seriously and has processes in place for reporting and investigating concerns. To respect the privacy of individuals, we do not comment on internal matters. David Walliams has hit back saying, or a spokesperson for David said, David has never been informed of any allegations raised against him by HarperCollins. He was not party to any investigation or given any opportunity to answer questions. David strongly denies that he has behaved inappropriately and is taking legal advice. But he's going through that process, isn't he? All of a sudden. I mean, it's been slow. He had a big fall from grace with Britain's Got Talent, sort of fell off the TV screens, but still makes appearances, as we just discussed. He's going to be on Would I Lie to You? At least he is at the moment on Boxing Day. But with this decision by HarperCollins, Waterstones have removed his face from promotions of his books. Only last Thursday, HarperCollins was saying, oh, you know, this is the author for Christmas, kids' favourite. The following day they cancelled him. So all of a sudden, he's being totally cancelled. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, it is full on. And of course, you know, we have seen a story already that he's going to be spending Christmas alone because he's not getting to see his son either and all this kind of thing. So as you say, when that process begins, the cancellation of somebody, it is absolutely acute. It is, you know, full on. And as you say, the person at the centre of that usually doesn't get much of a voice, but it'll be very interesting with regards to David Walliams' protestations there that he didn't know anything about, why he was released from HarperCollins. You know, the fact that he's already protesting against that will be a very interesting thing to watch, I think.
Yeah, be very fascinating to find out what happens in the weeks and months to come. But for the time being, David Walliams, you are cancelled. Let's see what happens over Christmas. I wonder if the BBC will still show the films of his books and indeed his appearance on Would I Lie to You. Interesting times. Thanks very much for your time, Beverly Lyons. Thank you. Beverly Lyons, their entertainment reporter. Now, when we come back, we're going to talk to a girl called, a woman called Zara. Zara, some years ago, transitioned to becoming or identifying as a male gender, as it were. Zara's gone back to being what nature designed for her, a biological woman, and says that she felt that she was sort of forced into this gender change when she was too young, forced into it by adults. Let's find out what she has to say after the break, shall we?
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. Very interesting story of our times, I think. Welcome to the show, Zara. Hi, Zara.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. Tell us your story. At a young age, you were persuaded that perhaps you were in the wrong body and you transitioned to identifying as a male. When did that happen, Zara?
So when I was around the age of 12, I discovered transgenderism. I got into it. And I would say that I felt under pressure, not just from one person. I would say it's the whole system, because it encourages you to go straight to medicalization instead of exploring other options. So like getting into the root cause of the issue. So I always mention how it's kind of dangerous to interact with the trans community because it's so affirming. It doesn't explore any other option other than affirming. And it kind of pushes you to take rapid steps into your transition.
So in your transition, did you undergo surgery?
Yeah, unfortunately, I got a double mastectomy at 19.
At 19? At 19. So this was 7 years after you were first advised that, or persuaded that you were born into the wrong body. Where did that persuasion happen? When you were 12, where were you first told perhaps you're in the wrong body?
It was on social media. I just found out, like, some people were talking about feeling like they were born in the wrong body, and by then I've already experienced significant distress and trauma related to my natural sex as a female. So I felt like it made sense to me. And I joined these group chats where all the trans-identifying females kept telling me that I need to start medicalization before it's too late. That's like the notion in the trans community, that you need to start medicalization before it's too late. But the thing is that they don't understand that even with medicalization, it doesn't really get you to pass or become the opposite sex. It just harms you on every aspect, socially, mentally, and physically.
Zara, where were your parents, if I can ask that, in all of this?
I was put into foster care.
Okay.
After I came out.
So you were making your own decisions, really.
Yeah.
But at some point, doctors, agreed to subject you to a double mastectomy when you were 19 years old. Did none of these doctors say, well, have you thought about this? Are you sure about this? I mean, what happened at that point?
There is one doctor when I was 18. He was a gender specialist in the Nottingham Gender Identity Clinic. His name was Dr. Nick Austin.
Yeah.
He suggested that, okay, maybe your traumas have an impact on your transition, but obviously by then I was so determined and so sure about my transition, I just thought that he was transphobic.
So but he was actually saying, are you sure about this? But apart from him, no one really advised caution.
No one pushed me. No, nothing. There was no caution in my case, and it's not like that. I wasn't trying to seek mental health therapy. Like I was trying to seek therapy for the longest, but every therapist I've met basically told me this is above our knowledge. Wait until you get seen by the NHS, until you get seen by a gender specialist. And when I was finally seen by one, there was nothing done. They just took my words for my feelings. And
how old were you then, Zara?
I was 18 when I was seen by
18. And then you had the surgery when you were 19. Did you also take puberty blocker drugs earlier on?
No, but at 16, I was under the care of gender GP, and I was taking testosterone injections.
Okay, to make you more male. So you had this drastic operation, double mastectomy, and then after that you began to feel that something wasn't right? How soon after that operation did you think, oh my God, I think I've made a terrible mistake?
So I'd say 2 years after the double mastectomy, it just I was a perfect candidate for peritop surgery, as they call it, which is known to produce a really natural male chest and retain sensation. And after my surgery, like as soon as I woke up the next day, my surgeon didn't know what type of surgery that I had, which made me start questioning, like, oh, maybe I did the wrong thing, because even the doctor doesn't care enough to know what surgery he performed. And then with time, I was just hoping that the results would get better. I would start feeling my chest, but it's been 2 years, over 2 years or something now, and all the sensation that I feel in my chest is just like stabbing sensation and phantom itching. It doesn't even look male. So, sorry. I think with the transition, with the surgery, as well as with the hormones, I didn't get what I was expecting. I didn't become a man. I just became a woman with health issues.
Yeah, and sorry to be ungallant, but how old are you now, Zara?
23 now. I just turned 23 in November.
So you're how old?
23, sorry.
23. So I thought you said 60. I don't think you're 60. You're wearing well. No, so you're 23 now. I mean, you've come through. Had an extraordinary journey. Are you happy now? Are you okay now, despite what happened a few years back?
So the transition for me is about connecting with myself and with my body, finally, which was what I initially was seeking through transition.
Yeah.
So I am happy. I'm more healthier now.
Good.
That's for sure.
Good. And just what would your advice be? You know, you were back when you were 12 years old. You were what they call gender dysphoric, you know. So more and more, I think kids are led into believing they were born in the wrong body. What would be your advice to any kid, be 12, 13, 14, experiencing the kind of mixed thoughts that you were having? What would be your advice in terms of potentially transitioning?
I just want to say that transition is not the solution for all of your issues. It is presented as this magic cure-all solution. And I think it's really harmful to believe the notion that puberty is a disease. It's not a disease. I think children deserve time and exploration. They need space. They don't need medicalization. I think even for medicalization, it needs to be strictly just for adults after thorough assessment. So in other
words, you're basically saying be very, very careful. Don't take drastic steps.
Yeah. I think people underestimate transition these days. They think, oh, everything is reversible, but it's not. It's like it's not what you think it is. It's not what you think it is. You're not gonna get to where you want with transition. It's just gonna make things worse for the most part. And most dysphoric children are proven to outgrow it with time. You know?
Yeah. And last question. I mean, clearly you regret what happened. You regret your double mastectomy, but you're going to be okay.
Yeah, I will be okay.
Good. It's good to talk to you, Zara. Thank you very much, and all the best. Very happy Christmas to you. Zara, who transitioned and then detransitioned, you know, so what she's saying is, you know, she had double mastectomy when she was 19. She's 23 now, and she bitterly regrets doing that. And she's saying she was like led into that. To be fair, you know, I didn't realise that she was foster care, so she doesn't necessarily have parental influence here, but she said the entire culture, the trans community, the online pressure, led her to feel that if she changed gender to be a guy, everything would be all right. And then she realised when she took this drastic step, a double mastectomy, It wasn't the answer. I just think that the story there is people should be very cautious, very careful. Let's not rush kids into all of this, if at all. 03444991000. Zara's story, well worth thinking about. When we come back, let's talk about sport. We're going to be joined by Dan King, Chelsea correspondent at The Sun. That next, stay tuned.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. It is time for this.
It's in 90 seconds from the Sun.
Yeah, 90 minutes and 90 seconds. All the sports stories that are worth talking about. And a warm welcome to Chelsea correspondent at The Sun, Dan King. Hi, Dan.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
I'm all right. Yesterday's match, I watched it myself. Aston Villa versus Man United. Not a bad game, but Villa came out tops. Amazing performance by Morgan Rogers. 2 great goals.
Yes, I mean, both Villa and Rogers started this season pretty slowly, but now they're absolutely on fire. And I think if we're lucky in the new year, we could be on for a decent, proper 3-horse title race, which I think would be fantastic for the Premier League.
Yeah, and it wasn't so long ago, as you say, not long after the season started, people were talking about Villa as potential relegation candidates. They were doing so badly. Now they're up in the top 3. They got a 7-point margin on 4th place Chelsea, your team. So it's Aston Villa on 36 points, Manchester City 37, Arsenal 39. I mean, you wouldn't write Chelsea off yet, nor would you write Liverpool off. But fair to say at the moment it's a 3-horse race.
Yes, I think that there are only 3 points between them. I think we've got a very interesting game this coming Saturday where Chelsea will be hosting Aston Villa, which I think again will be a really good test of Unai Emery's team and their credentials, and indeed of whether Chelsea can recover that deficit up to the top of Arsenal. But yeah, I think it's a very exciting race. And I think on the flip side of last night's game is, well, we've got another week where we're wondering, are Manchester United going forward, or are they not? They can have one or two victories, and there's a point where they were actually ahead of Liverpool in the table, but now they're behind. So I think there are lots of interesting questions up at Old Trafford come the new year as well.
Yeah, quite interesting what's happened to Liverpool in the last couple of weeks as well, because they were way down, weren't they, on around about position? They were in the 15th or 14th or something like that, and now they're back up to 5th. On 29 points, admittedly 7 points adrift of Aston Villa, but they're there or thereabouts, up there with Chelsea. So you can't write Chelsea or Liverpool off either, can you?
No, but I think obviously Liverpool have now suffered another blow in that Alexander Isak, their British record signing from the summer, appears to have sustained a very serious leg injury, a broken leg in fact, which will keep him out for a number of months. So that's going to put more onus on their other big money striker, Hugo Ekitike, to carry on scoring. But he's doing that so far, and I think Liverpool, especially after all the money they spent, should have a squad that can cope with the loss of Isak, and it will be interesting to see whether they can put together the kind of run of games which is going to require to close that gap. But I think it's very much, I think you'd still say Arsenal the favourites. City showing signs of putting together those sort of runs where they don't lose for 20 games. That's what wins you titles. It's not, you don't win the title in December. It's February, March, April, May. And Aston Villa, the surprise package, I think they are. If someone like Rodgers, for instance, were to be unavailable or to get injured, that would cause them a problem. They haven't got the strength in depth probably, and that's why people were thinking they weren't going to do very well, because they were scrabbling around to get bodies in on the last day of the transfer window. But as things stand at the moment, Rodgers and Villa on fire and really trying to make this a very interesting title race.
To go back quickly to Man United and yesterday's game, I mean, they lost Bruno Fernandes very early on due to injury. And I think subsequently it proved that without Bruno Fernandes, Man United become even more fragile.
No, he's such a weird figure for now, because people have criticised him as being a not very good captain. They've said that his body language could be bad and so on. But the fact is, when United win games, Fernandes almost inevitably scores or creates something, and he's being asked to play quite often in a position which is not what he would regard as his best position. And I think he is by far the most consistent and high quality player on their team. So if it's an injury that's going to keep him out for a while, you really would start to worry about what will happen to them in the next few games, because they could lose a lot of ground. And I think qualifying for Europe has got to be a minimum target for Ruben Amorim this season. Otherwise, you wonder if he's going to become the latest casualty of the Manchester United hot seat.
Yeah, I think Bruno Fernandes, I don't think Man United miss his captaincy, but they miss him as a player. He's a vital player to them, and that was proved yesterday. Dan, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much.
You too. Merry Christmas.
Dan King there, Chelsea correspondent at The Sun. Let's take a couple of calls, shall we? Let's go over to Herbie in Harrow. Hi, Herbie. Have you been losing sleep about the fact that Father Christmas is too white?
Oh, Merry Christmas, Kevin, I must say. What a load of humbugs. Unbelievable. Listen, it's cold outside, baby, so let me know. Come and arrest me, for Christ's sake, for being so damn rude to sing such a lovely song. What's the matter with these people? Snowflakes and killjoys. Unbelievable, Kevin, this time of the year. Whatever next.
It's like I said, these people who think that Father Christmas is too white, he's a symbol of patriarchism, also of colonialism. We need a Mother Christmas to make it more sexually equal. We need Father Christmas working with the elves to make it equal in the workplace, and so on and so forth. These are all people who work for museums in Brighton. They need help, these people, don't they?
Oh, totally. Oh, they need to go and see the funny farm. I'll tell you, that's where they belong. Believe you me. Talk about killjoys. Kevin, at this time of the year, we really need something like this to really lift our spirits up, don't we, with the problems we're going through. Whatever next, what more can we be hit with? I don't know. Perhaps snow on Christmas Day might be a good thing.
Yeah.
That'd be right, won't it?
Yeah, that's the trouble with Christmas. It's too white, all that snow and everything. But apparently the tale of white Western Santa judging children's behaviour, according to these people, and I quote, has problems. Told like this, the story of Santa represents the ultimate authority of all societies. This asks us to accept colonial assumptions of cultural superiority. They're talking about Father Christmas.
Oh dear, Kevin. Kevin, it can't go any worse than these unbelievable snowflakes and wokes. Whatever next they're going to go for? What have we got to be planned for next, Kevin?
It's very odd the way more than ever before this year Christmas seems to have been under attack. Well, you can't use the word Christmas. Tesco's selling evergreen trees and not Christmas trees. Gingerbread people, not gingerbread men. Snow persons as opposed to snowmen, and so on and so forth. The woke attack on Christmas this year seems to be all guns blazing, doesn't it?
And Kevin, don't forget in Somerset, reindeers are wild animals, so they've got to have a zoo licence now to have reindeers that are fed and go for walks. They are dangerous animals, and you need a zoo. Whatever next can these people come up with to get money from us and to destroy our Christmas spirits? I really cannot believe it. I really can't, Kevin. It's just gone beyond belief, isn't it?
Well, I wish we could. I wish people ignored these idiots, but they don't. This is getting to be very pernicious. But Herbie, well, I'm here until Wednesday, so I'll probably talk to you again. But if not, it's been great talking to you throughout the year. Love your phone calls and a very happy Christmas to you.
You too, Kevin.
Cheers, Herbie. Let's go straight over to Anne in, I'm going to say this wrong, I don't know, is it Gwynedd, is it? Hello, Anne.
Gwynedd.
How do you say that? How do you say that? Gwynedd, is that right?
Gwynedd.
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 Gwynedd. Well, welcome to the show, Anne. What would you like to say?
Well, when I was growing up, there was one Father Christmas. When I had children, we moved from England to Wales. Mm-hmm. And my children were quite clever in as much that they said, well, he's speaking differently to last year when we were in England. And
what do you mean when they went to the grotto or something?
Yeah. So we... no, but you see...
I get it. Yeah, it's funny.
There's only one Father Christmas.
Of course there is, yeah.
But there's a lot of helpers. There are helpers all over the world because Father Christmas is so busy looking, making things for the children with the elves.
Yeah.
But they have loads and loads of helpers.
Right.
Some are white, some are black, some are Asian, but they do have helpers. So the idiot hasn't studied. The people in that university or whatever they are mad because they're talking.
Is there Brighton
terms.
Museums or Brighton and Hove Museums?
But as I say, there is only one, and he was from the North Pole, wasn't he?
Also the story of Father Christmas. It's just a bit of fun for the kids, isn't it?
Exactly.
And these people are turning it into some sort of symbol of patriarchal colonialism. I mean...
Well, they should get a life.
That's exactly what they should do, Anne. It really, really is ridiculous. What do you think?
I have a Muslim acquaintance who always celebrates Christmas because they make it a happy time. They have a Christmas tree and the children have presents.
Yeah, well, I just wished Stephen Silverman, who's from the Campaign Against Anti-Semitism, I just wished him a happy Hanukkah on air, and he kind of corrected me and said, Happy Christmas.
Well, this is it. But as I said,
everybody loves Christmas. Everybody loves Christmas. They do. They do. Whether or not they're Christians, everybody loves Christmas because it's good. Because it's good. Because it's good fun. Exactly right. Because it's good fun, and the kids love it. And these killjoys, these fun police idiots to Brighton and Hove Museums, as you quite rightly say, and couldn't have put it better myself. Get a life. Just get a life. Right?
You feel sorry for them.
I do, yeah, that's it. I feel sorry for them. Anne, thank you for an excellent call and a Merry Christmas to you. Anne in Gwynedd, there in Wales. Honestly, really. Let's talk about that a little bit more, shall we? What do you think about the cancelling of Christmas and the fact that Father Christmas is just way too white? When I come back after the 9 o'clock news, very pleased to announce that my guest will be Brendan O'Neill, Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online. We'll be running through some of the big stories of the day. Also, Robert Jobson, royal author, will be joining me about Prince Andrew and his latest horror at Sandringham, sex and drugs parties at his mum's favourite country retreat. Isn't that special? All of that still to come, so stay tuned.
This journey of me following the migrants went from sort of 10 in the morning, all around the clock, to late at night, to the point where, on buses, on trains, through streets, at every key point, French military police and the French police, they were there. They were on the bus, taking down notes, taking pictures, but not doing anything to deter the migrants or stop them, just being there. I was sat in the tent and he was showing me through photos of his phone, scrolling through. This was barbaric, horrific stuff. Blokes going through walls in vehicles and then jumping out and shooting everyone. His WhatsApp picture was him with a mask on, with a gun like that.
You're in a tent with this guy?
I'm in a tent with this guy, and actually he's just showing me this stuff. I'm just thinking, this is not the kind of bloke you want to be coming to the UK.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 20 minutes or so, I'll be joined by the excellent royal author Robert Jobson, old colleague of mine. We need to talk about Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and what he was getting up to Sandringham, in Sandringham, so turning his mother's favourite country retreat into a citadel of sex and drugs parties, a citadel of sin. That's great, isn't it? We'll talk about that in just a little while. But first, warm welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to welcome Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online, Brendan O'Neill. How you doing, Brendan?
Hi, Kevin. I'm good, thank you.
Now, first of all, let's talk about Mary Ann Stevenson. I'm sure you've heard of her before. She's just, I haven't. She's just been appointed the new chair of the Equality and Human Rights Commission, and she has very strong views about those of us who worry about the migrant crisis. She fears we're demonising migrants. We're making the place unpleasant for migrants to live in. Here she is, voicing introducing her virtue signalling outlook on this entire crisis.
Demonisation of migrants, the creating this idea that migration causes huge risks to the country, can make the lives not just of migrants to the UK, but of ethnic minority UK citizens very difficult. I think leaving the European Convention is a mistake. It weakens the rights that all of us depend on.
Well, first of all, Brendan, don't you feel that there is a case to put that migration, the mass migration we've been experiencing now for 15 or so years, has caused a risk to the people of this country? It does. It threatens the safety of people in this country. So what is she talking about? Oh, you mustn't say that because it demonises migrants. Why, also in that statement, does she prioritise the welfare of the people who break into our country illegally over the welfare of the citizens who are born here and who live here? Why does she do that, do you think?
Well, exactly right. You know, who the hell do these people think they are, telling us how we should talk about issues of public interest? We'll talk about them however we want, thank you very much. You know, these people take over Quangos and then they think they have the right to wag their finger at the rest of the country and tell us off for the words we've been using and the ideas we've been expressing. I'm sorry, that ship has sailed. These people don't get to tell us how to talk anymore. And, you know, how callous for her to say this shortly after those two young Afghan men were found guilty of raping a 15-year-old girl in Leamington Spa. And that's not a one-off. These things happen frequently now. Men who come here, often on small boats, posing as asylum seekers, but we all know they are economic migrants who want to come here to earn a living or get welfare. They have been committing crimes, and very often crimes against women and girls. And you have these kind of upper middle class Quangocrats who live in luxurious parts of the country where they probably don't have to worry about a hotel full of migrants at the end of their road, telling the rest of us off for how we're talking about it. I think it's really actually quite repulsive.
Before she landed this exalted position, her new job as chair of the Equalities Commission, Ms Stevenson lobbied the government to abandon its smash the gangs policy to allow more asylum seekers into the country. And she compared then criticism of refugees to, and I quote, hostile politics, racist rhetoric and the demonising language of the past. I mean, this woman is a sort of stereotype wrapped up in a cliche, isn't she?
She absolutely is. You know, the problem with Smash the Gangs is that it was never a serious policy. It was never going to work. Keir Starmer doesn't have it in him to smash these gangs. And of course, the bigger problem is that we shouldn't have just been focusing on these gangs, wicked as they are. We should have been focusing on policing the border. It's not that hard, if you are serious about it, to police your border, to keep out people who you don't want coming into the country. This woman is now saying, essentially, that we shouldn't do that at all, but we shouldn't police the border. We shouldn't try to keep people out. We shouldn't try to smash these gangs. What she's essentially saying is, give it up. Let people come in. It doesn't matter how porous our borders are. And I'm sorry, but that is not a view that the vast majority of people in this country share. That's the view of a handful of cranks. And that's what we should say to these people now. The real crank in this discussion is not us lot who are saying that migration has gone too far and poses a threat to the social fabric. It's people like her who think we shouldn't even have proper safeguarding at our borders. I just think she's come in at a really odd time because the public are sick and tired of these overeducated, well-off people who move around in that world of quangos and think tanks. The idea that they can still tell us how we should think about these issues and how we should speak on them, it feels so old-fashioned even to hear that idea anymore, because migration has now become a huge public issue and it's not going away anytime soon.
Mary Ann, as I keep saying, who the hell is she? I've never heard of her before in my life. But Mary Ann also thinks that we must not, in any circumstances, ever leave the European Convention on Human Rights, because she seems to feel that if we did do that, if we left the ECHR, there would be no more human rights in Britain. Where do they get this idea? There are all sorts of countries around the world who are incredibly committed to human rights, and they're not in Europe, so they're not in the ECHR. You don't have to be in the ECHR to believe in and enshrine human rights, do you?
Absolutely not. And in fact, people in this country, the United Kingdom, fought for their rights for centuries before the ECHR even existed, before that European Convention was even drafted. You know, Britain has a long, great, proud history of fighting for press freedom, freedom of speech, the right to vote, the right to strike, although that's now been pushed slightly over the edge by the greedy junior doctors, in my opinion. You know, all these fundamental rights that make life worth living. Brits fought for them from, you know, for hundreds and hundreds of years. The idea that we need these kind of judges in Europe and these experts in Europe to guard our human rights against the British state is a fantasy. We can do that ourselves. But, you know, the problem with the ECHR at the moment is that it is a tool against democracy. It is frequently being used to undermine the decision-making of our elected representatives, and most importantly, the decision-making of us. Because what it means is that people can sweep in people we've never heard of, people you couldn't pick out in a lineup, can sweep in and say, well, you can't deport that person because it goes against his human rights. You can't block those people from coming to the country because it goes against their human rights. And as you said at the start, Kevin, what about the human rights of the people who were born and who live in the United Kingdom? What about the human rights of girls and women who want to go shopping in the local high street without encountering 800 men from overseas who are shipped in overnight to a local hotel? What about the rights of those people? That's what we've got to be asking ourselves.
Absolutely right. We'll come back to the migrant crisis in just a little while. Because I wanted to ask you what you felt about West Streeting, clearly on manoeuvres, when he should be round the negotiating table trying to solve the doctors' strike. He's busy giving moody interviews to The Observer, walking through the forest in his Wellington boots, saying, who would ever want to be Prime Minister? I can't imagine. Oh, how about you, Wes? He wants to be Prime Minister, and he has identified as one way of defenestrating Keir Starmer to appeal to the left of the Labour Party by saying Keir doesn't go nearly far enough when it comes to cozying up to Europe. Keir Starmer has been busy trying to destroy Brexit as far as he can. West Streeting, should he become our leader, which could happen fairly soon if we're not careful, he wants us to rejoin the customs union of the EU, which would mean we'd have to obey all their laws, all their diktats, all their rules and regulations, but would have no voting rights at the table. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Wonderful. Just what the country wants right now. You know, you're absolutely right. He wants to be Prime Minister. I've never seen someone who's so desperate to be PM. You can see it in his face. You can see it in his denials. Everything he's doing now is geared towards a leadership challenge and eventually becoming PM. It's so transparent. And what's really interesting is that he's obviously pitching his future premiership to the middle classes, to the upper middle classes, that section of society that is still weeping day in, day out over Brexit, those kind of moaning Hampstead people who were marching through the streets after 2016 with blue paint on their faces, crying because the oiks dared to vote against the European Union. He's going for the Remoaners. He's aiming his party, which he hopes to lead at some point, he's aiming it towards the Remoaners. This is a really fascinating choice that Labour seems to be making. They seem to be doubling down on their abandonment of the working classes. They seem to be doubling down on their turning of their backs on the North, the Red Wall, those parts of the country that voted Brexit very enthusiastically, who knew what they were voting for. They're not as stupid as these political movers and shakers think they are. He's given up on them. And he's saying, OK, you know what, we've lost the working class, screw them. I'll try and warm up to the posh Remoaners who work in the media and in the public sector and in the think tank world. So he's really turning the party into something different than it was when it was founded. And I think that's a really fascinating and problematic road for Labour to be going down.
It certainly is. Talking of problematic roads, let's talk about the migrant crisis itself. It was about 11 days ago, last Friday week, the MPs, there's an MP called Tristram Osborne, one of the Kent Labour MPs, started crowing about, you see, 28 days, not a single migrant has crossed the channel. The one in, one out scheme, our various deterrents, they're starting. Shabana Mahmood's tough crackdown, it's starting to work. The next day, actually what we'd have is 28 days of very bad weather. The next day, the channel was like a mill pond. We're talking about last Saturday week. 737 migrants came across the channel that day, and they kept on coming all week up until Saturday, just gone, 2 days ago, 803. In 1 week, we had more than 2,000 migrants come across the channel. They have no deterrents. The only deterrent that stops these people coming across and breaking into our country illegally is the weather. Labour are doing nothing about this, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. This is a catastrophe, isn't it?
It's awful. I mean, Kevin, what an indictment of this country and the government, in fact, that it's only the weather that's protecting our borders. It's only the vagaries of the weather, whether it's good or bad, that determines whether our borders are protected or not from young men who often come from very regressive cultures and who bring some very problematic ideas and behavior with them. The only thing that's protecting us from that is the weather, the stormy seas, the rain. Once that clears up and things look nicer, they come in again in their hundreds every single day. This is a completely and utterly unsustainable state of affairs, and it has been for some time. But under Labour, it seems to be getting worse. You know, this is the reason this is the big issue of our time. The reason this will be the defining issue going into the next election is not because the British public are racist. It's not because we hate all foreigners or we think we should close the borders to absolutely everyone and not have any immigrants at all working in this country. It's because people want our borders to be controlled. They think the prime responsibility of a government is to protect the national territory from external forces. That's the bottom line. If a government can't do that, then it can't do anything. That is what people are thinking now. They're thinking, if you can't police the territory itself, then how can we trust you to run that territory in a meaningful or good way? We've got to get a handle on these figures, both in terms of illegal immigration and, in fact, legal immigration. People think too many people are coming to this country and that the tap needs to be turned off at some point. But the only thing helping us do that right now is the weather. The government can't do it. The border force can't do it. The political class doesn't even want to do it. They don't care about borders. The only thing saving us is the weather. We need massive change in this country, and the small boats crisis is really indicative of that.
Absolutely right. Brendan, we've been covering this latest abomination when it comes to Christmas. This is people who work for Brighton and Hove Museums on their website have said that the problem with Santa Claus, I'm sure you've worried about this a lot, is that he's too white. And that his story is a tale of Western binary, whatever the hell that means, and that his story, his saga, is a story of Santa having the ultimate authority on all societies, that he shouldn't be able to proclaim whether or not children are naughty. That shouldn't be within his gift. And that his story asks us to accept colonial assumptions of cultural superiority, and on it goes. Load of old nonsense about we should have a Mother Christmas and all that. Now, if you add this latest nonsense to, Sainsbury's not having Christmas trees this year, but evergreen trees, no more advent calendars, we have countdown calendars, holidays, not Christmas, the apparent abolition of the word, or outlawing of the word Christmas. What is going on here, Brendan, generally speaking? This apparent assault on Christmas, which in the end I think is a fun time of year, particularly for kids. Who are these fun police, these thought police people trying to cancel Christmas? What is going on here, do you think?
Yeah, these modern-day Grinches, these modern-day Scrooges who just hate the idea of any joyful festival, and they certainly hate the idea of a joyful religious festival, and that's why they're hiding all these terms. When you read stuff about maybe we should have Mother Christmas and maybe Santa Claus shouldn't get to sit in judgment on everyone, you just wonder if it's parody. Are they parodying themselves? What stage of wokeness have we reached? It can get very confusing. But I love Christmas. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I hate the way it's been kind of hidden away. The fact that you're supposed to say happy holidays rather than what we used to say in the old days, which was Merry Christmas. I remember when people didn't even say Happy Christmas. They said Merry Christmas. That's what you were supposed to say. And everything was Christmas themed, and there were nativities in the local town square, you know, the baby Jesus in a crib, and everyone would walk past and pay respect. I remember all of that from when I was a kid, and people used to love that. But now we hide it all away out of a shame of our a shame towards our Christian tradition, a shame towards our religious tradition, our you know, the traditions of this country. We seem ashamed of them. We seem determined to erase them. And it's taken a really serious turn in Europe, because in Europe, Christmas markets are often attacked by radical Islamists. That has happened numerous times. And I think if a society sends the signal that Christmas is not all it's cracked up to be, and maybe we should be ashamed of it, it's no wonder people think they can attack Christmas markets. There's a poll came out in Germany a couple of days ago showing that a huge number of Germans are afraid of going to Christmas markets because they're afraid of being mown down by a car or attacked with a knife. This is the situation Europe has created for itself, where people are scared of celebrating the most important date in the Christian calendar. That is horrendous, and it's another issue that we need to completely turn around.
It really is. Let me play you just by way of a farewell. Thank you very much, by the way, for all your brilliant contributions to my various programmes this year. You've been amazing. This is Keir Starmer. Well, not quite Keir Starmer. This is the Royal Variety Show over the weekend last night. This mimic did an impression of Keir Starmer. It's not very good, but the crowd, they're not booing his impression, much as they might. They're booing the very concept of Keir Starmer. Have a quick listen. Have a quick look. Yeah, not a very good impression, but that's not what they're booing. Just the mere mention of Keir Starmer and that Royal Variety crowd, not particularly political, I would suggest, just burst into this crescendo of organic booing. The level of this Prime Minister's unpopularity, I think, is unprecedented. It's off the scale, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're getting booed at the Royal Variety performance, it's game over. I mean, that really is the litmus test of your popularity, because, as you say, that's not a particularly firebrand audience or political audience. That's normal people. So if you're getting booed there, you're in big trouble. And I think Keir Starmer should be incredibly worried when he hears this, because people are sick and tired of him. They've had enough of his wooden voice, his boring demeanour, his robotic style, his rubbish policies, his stupid ideas. People have had enough of all of it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he gets toppled soon from within his own party. And if we get a general election sooner than we might expect it, and that would be good for the country.
It certainly would. Brendan, once again, thanks for everything this year, and have a very great Christmas.
Thanks.
That's Brendan O'Neill, Chief Political Writer at Spiked Online, with his typical pearls of wisdom, I think you'll agree. Let me know what you think of what he was saying. 03444 499 1000. What is going on? Who's trying to cancel Christmas? Let me know if you've got any ideas. When we come back, I'm going to be talking to royal journalist and author, best-selling author, Robert Jobson, about what the hell Andrew was up to at Sandringham. The Epstein files, loads and loads of pictures that don't amount to very much, very titillating and all that. But the picture of Andrew at Sandringham, whilst not particularly sort of repulsive in itself, tells one hell of a story of the depths of this guy's depravity. What he did at his mother's favourite country retreat. Unbelievable. A sex and drugs party at Sandringham. Unbelievable. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
allegations of siphoning, things being sold off. I mean, all of these things. These are again allegations. There is
We've seen evidence of it. We've seen there is documentary evidence of people siphoning off aid. It has happened. It's been sold in the black market. What are you trying to do to prevent that?
Look, you're conflating two things here.
I'm not conflating two things. I'm talking about. I'm not. There is evidence to suggest that Hamas has stolen aid.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Sandringham. Let's talk about what the then Prince Andrew got up to at Sandringham, his mother's favourite country retreat. Sex aid, poppers, sex toys were found by royal aides after a party that Andrew threw for Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell at Sandringham. There's a picture that emerged, there it is, black and white picture in the Epstein files of Andrew in his tuxedo, sort of draped across the laps of all these beautiful women. This is what he called a straightforward shooting party. Don't think so, really. Let's talk to the man who first revealed this. He is royal journalist and author Robert Jobson. Hi, Rob. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, mate. How are you, Kev?
I'm good. Well, this is extraordinary. I mean, you've written about this before, but the Epstein files with the release of this picture of shone an even harsher light on the situation. This was Sandringham. This was his mother's favourite country retreat here in England, and he staged a party there for Jeffrey Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell, clearly a bevy of beauties, as they say in the press. There he is, draped across them, okay, fully clothed. But royal aides went on, as you revealed, to discover sex aids, popper drugs, sex stimulant drugs all over the loos, apparently lubrications, sex toys. I mean, you know, we thought this guy had sunk low, but it seems there's no depths below which he will not sink. I think this is shocking. Shocking that he did this.
I mean, Kevin, it's even more organised and worse than that. I mean, he effectively turned Sandringham, as you say, a sacrosanct place for the Queen, where she used to go to remember the death of her father. She had Christmases there. You know, we always used to see those pictures, didn't we, with the Queen going to Christmas at Sandringham as well, see for the royals this Christmas. But the actuals, she turned the place into a sort of a Playboy mansion, really, and they were giving out these things in. They weren't just distributed; they were actually given to the guests in their rooms in little baskets, like party bags. So this was an intention. This was before. So when they arrived as guests, they had all of these things in the bathroom. You know, when the Queen or say Charles had a shooting party, you'd have, you know, you'd have things like bath gel, you know, soaps and bath things in the little baskets. He transformed it so you've got poppers and all these things available for his guests. So there was no doubt what he was organising. It wasn't, as he said to Emily Maitlis in that dreadful and catastrophic interview, a straightforward shooting party. I mean, I don't know what straightforward he was talking about, but I mean, he was loaned the place by the Queen, you know, to have this party or this shooting party, and this is what he did with it. You know, I mean, it does show you, and I think the staff were pretty shocked when they had to clear up all this mess, because it was just outrageous, really. What was he thinking? You know, that he could do this. I mean, you know, do this in the Queen's residence.
Richard Kay's got a piece in the Mail today, probably accurately, saying that although Andrew's fall from grace has cast a dark cloud over the royal family generally, these new revelations, I mean, you've written about them before, but the revelation or the release of this picture of Andrew, shining a light on what the hell he got up to at Sandringham, will make Christmas celebrations for the royal family up there at Sandringham, from which of course he's banned, even more kind of reduced than they were going to be, that the royal family are reeling by what this guy got up to. As I say, you know, we were used to him having a terrible story to tell, or us learning of his terrible story, but each day we seem to learn something that's even worse. I mean, has this guy got no standards whatsoever?
Clearly not, but I think the reality is the royal family have allowed this to be a sort of death by 1,000 cuts, and that's to their shame, really, because a lot of the information they had, it goes back to 2010, 2011. This poor girl, Virginia Giuffre, has been talking about these allegations before she was tragically killed herself. You know, this is an awful story, and it's going to get worse, but I suspect they knew it was going to get worse. That's why they did these drastic things. They must have information, or got information of what was going to come out in these Epstein files, or get inclination anyway, and that's why they've stripped him of this title, you know, to take away his house. But he's ironically going to be apparently moving to Sandringham, or one of the places on the Sandringham estate. To me, I don't think that's really good enough anymore. It still smacks of privilege. I mean, he's paid £12 million to Miss Giuffre before she tragically killed herself. But, you know, Congress are asking him to answer questions. You got Ghislaine Maxwell, who's clearly in all these pictures, in prison serving a sentence. Epstein's himself dead. You know, it really does smack that if you've got enough money, you're privileged and you're royal, you don't have to face justice. And I think a lot of people find that uncomfortable.
I think they do. And do you think...
I know he's denied all the allegations, but he's been invited many times to give his side of the story, but he hasn't. And these things now, it's a death by 1,000 cuts, and it's impacting on the monarchy's brand as well. There's no doubt about that.
And do you think that the king might try to pressurise Andrew into appearing before Congress, into appearing before this hearing, to tell them what he knew about Jeffrey Epstein? Because it would be the decent thing to do. Just hiding away in his new cottage in Sandringham won't be a good look. Do you think the king might try to prevail upon Andrew to do the decent thing and testify?
I mean, I think he should. I think the king should. But the reality is, we've seen Andrew being interviewed by a journalist, Emily Maitlis. You know, he was hopeless in front of that camera, and he was a car crash interview. So the reality is, can you imagine him being grilled by a professional congressman, or even by by the FBI interrogators? The reality is, you know, he would fall apart. And so there's, you know, he doesn't even respond to these calls for him to give evidence. And I'm sure that these lawyers don't want him to do so, and he, you know, there's always a risk. If he could give evidence by remote, and that means he's not going to be extradited. But you know, if he leaves the country, goes to America, he could be arrested.
Yeah, that's true. A couple of other stories just before you go, Rob. First of all, Harry and Meghan. Apparently they let 3 more staff go from their Archewell employee toll. Have they? So does this mean they might be struggling financially, do you think?
Well, it's all relative. I mean, I don't think they struggle. I mean, I think they've had several million pounds. They've got several £1 million in the bank, if not more. You know, they live in a huge mansion in Montecito. So I don't think the word struggle. I think maybe they're in danger sometimes of, you know, overspend, haven't they? They've got a big security bill. They're trying to get this global philanthropist role. It hasn't really come off at all, actually. And he was giving a talk to estate agents or real estate people in Toronto, in Canada, not that long ago. Now, I don't think they're struggling financially, but I think basically they probably realise they've bitten off more than they can chew in terms of trying to be these global philanthropists. I mean, she couldn't afford really to get on the plane to, she didn't get on a plane to see her poor dad when he was in hospital. So perhaps things are tighter than we think.
Yeah, and one last story about them, a story that emerged over the weekend, that their charity, the Archewell Foundation, is apparently £1.8 million in the red. And that is because the charity has had £3.3 million worth of expenses over the past year. We don't know exactly where that money got spent, but the suggestion is that a lot of it might have gone on these 2 pretend royal tours that Harry and Meghan staged in Nigeria and Colombia. If that is the case, that their expenses for these tours have plunged their charity into the red, that wasn't why people would have donated, was it? To fund their luxury travel and their trips to these 2 countries. That's not
No,
quite...
I don't think research and development, or whatever they're going to call it, or foreign travel is really warranted. They had very clear aims, didn't they? I think they laid it out in their charitable mission when they launched their charity, and I'm sure being 1.8 million in the red, it wasn't one of those things. But I think it's about time, when it comes to charity, a little bit more transparency. We'd like to know exactly what has been spent, but more importantly, what has been given, what has been actually distributed to the causes they said they were going to be helping. It's very clear when the royals do it over here. People are very straightforward when it comes to charitable donations. I think if you're going to run a charity like this and be so bold and say what you're doing, and you have a mission statement, you've got to say what you're actually giving out and to who.
Exactly right. Rob, great to talk to you. Very happy Christmas to you. Robert Jobson there, brilliant royal journalist and author. His latest book, I think, was called The Windsor Legacy. Why don't you go out and buy it? Great Christmas present for someone. Let's go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk to former Top Gear presenter Steve Berry about the latest attack on motorists by this anti-car government. They're going to restrict parking even more to try to discourage us from using cars, driving anywhere. So you won't be able to find... If you're having trouble parking it when you go into town or whatever, now it's already a nightmare, right? Well, Starmer wants to make it even worse for environmental reasons. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, it's already hard enough to be a motorist, isn't it? Starmer, as part of his war on motorists, is planning a crackdown on parking spaces. Under plans published by the government, councils will be required to impose sweeping parking restrictions, limiting the number of spaces on new housing developments without any justification. This aims to discourage car use in favour of greener alternatives such as using public transport, walking or cycling. Let's speak to former Top Gear presenter Steve Berry. Steve, yet another attack on motorists, the war on motorists, as if driving a car is the crime of the century. It's hard enough to park if you drive into town right now. This is going to make it impossible. What is going on?
Well, why would you want to drive into town, mate? I don't understand that. I live about 2.5 miles from city centre Manchester.
Well, you're going to walk then, are you?
Eat my own hair than drive into the city centre. It's 2.5 miles, mate. Do you know what I do?
Yeah.
Cycle, normally. Or sometimes, if I've been to the boozer, I don't take my car. Although, would you believe it, in modern Britain, in a city like Manchester, the nearest pub to me is at least half a mile away.
Yeah.
Of course, all the pubs are closing, aren't they? I just walk. Do you know what I mean? It's like, we have the Christmas markets in Manchester.
You seem to be approving of what Starmer's doing. It's not a great idea. It's hard enough to park already, and it's all right. It's all very well to say, Manchester. What are local towns we're talking about? Local towns, people who live a couple of miles outside their towns. Maybe they can't cycle, they can't drive in. There's nowhere to park. How much more? How much worse are they going to make our lives driving cars?
Right, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
You live in a few miles out of town. What you living in? A high-rise block? You're living in a house, mate. A house that's probably got a garage and a drive. How many cars have you got? I've got 2 cars. I've got a parking space outside my little...
So you approve of cracking down on parking in towns? Fewer, you approve of more restrictions on parking? Because I would suggest we're at critical mass on that already.
I made a journey of 25 miles by bus from Accrington in Lancashire to city centre Manchester. Do you know how much it cost me?
How much?
You know how much it cost me? £2. £2. Now, whether I agree with Starmer, I don't. Whether I feel any sort of there's a war on motorists. If you say to me, OK, Steve, you can either drive a 50-mile round trip, or you could jump on a bus that does it as quick, because the thing used the motorway, it didn't amble along.
I'll take the car every day of the week.
Instead of paying £4, right, well, you must have a lot more money to spend than most people have these days,
No, because the reason I have a car is for convenience.
Mate,
I want to get in my car and drive into town. What's wrong with that?
Let me explain what happened. I got in a car on a bus within sight of where I'd been to see. I've been to see my son to have lunch with him.
But what if you don't? Yeah, you want to do that. But what about people who don't want to do that? Why should they be demonised by this crackdown on parking spaces? Why can't I bought a car? Why can't I use the damn thing?
I'll make a video for you of Manchester traffic. We've got
I look forward to that. Sounds like a bestseller.
Do you know what it's going to be?
Cinema attendances are down. That'll bring them right back up.
It's going to be a nightmare.
Yeah.
We've got 3 million people in Greater Manchester, and the last time that they counted, the last reliable figures show that it went up 10% in 10 years. So it went from 3 million to 3.3 million. A lot of those people have cars, but guess what we're not doing?
What?
We're not building roads. So quite why? I just don't get what your thing is about always wanting to use a car.
Why not? Because it's my choice. That's what I want to do. You don't want to do it. I do. Why should I be demonised for that?
Okay, mate. You drive into... I tell you what, you come to Manchester and you try to replicate that journey. I'll get on the bus.
Have you ever been anywhere else apart from Manchester? There are problems around the country. You know, you could have a local town. So what about, say, a 70-year-old person who lived 2 years outside a rural town?
20 mile up the road. I could park a bloody train outside.
Yeah, but it is a question of choice. Why should I be... I don't want to take your damn public transport. I don't want to take a bus. I don't want to cycle into town. I want to drive my damn car. Why should I be demonised by this dictatorial, tyrannical government?
You've taken lessons from your predecessor, haven't you?
No, it's just that you seem to be approving of what the government are doing here. Leave us alone. If I want to take my car into town, just maybe, Steve, just maybe, it might not be, see if you can get your head around this, Manchester, it might be another town, then why shouldn't I just be able to do that?
Which town hasn't
got... Any old town. I want the right to drive my damn car into town and park it. Why should I be prevented from that?
Because there are way more of us.
What for? Net zero? Don't give me that claptrap. What for? Why shouldn't I drive my car? Why should I take a bus? Why should I cycle? Why? Why? Tell me why. What's the reason? Save the planet? Don't give me that.
You want to drive your car? Okay, you drive your car.
Fine, fine. Why shouldn't I be able to drive my car? Why shouldn't everybody else drive my car? Tell you what, I'll overtake you on your bicycle when I'm on the way. I'll overtake you on your 15 buses that you think are so great to get into Manchester. How about that?
You won't overtake me, pal. I will get there quicker than you because you'll be sat...
I don't care. I still want the right to take my car. Yeah.
It's petrol season, isn't it? You've missed your calling. You should be slapping your thigh and going...
Well, why? What do you think you getting the bus or taking a bike will save the planet? Have you bought into that absolute claptrap? If not, why shouldn't I drive my car in?
Right, I'll tell you for why. You'll stop.
Go on then, Steve. Hit me with it.
In the It Press file, in the late 60s, in a scene, Michael Caine gets a call from his boss. He comes out of his house and gets in his Cortina GT and drives to the Admiralty. Do you know where the Admiralty is, mate, in London?
Yes, I do know where the Admiralty is, yes.
Try and replicate that journey now. Try and come out of wherever Michael Caine is in the East End of London.
Yeah, but I want the right to replicate it if I can without dictatorial rules from a tyrannical government that you should not be supporting if you understood liberty, which you clearly don't.
You don't seem to understand the fact that in the last 50 years, the ownership of motor cars has increased massively.
Good, that's good for the car industry, isn't it?
Which car industry? The Chinese?
The British car industry, the German car industry, the American car industry, the car industry. Selling cars is good.
Yeah, let's just fill up all our towns and cities with more and more cars.
Why not? Why not? Why not? That's called freedom, Steve. That's called freedom. The freedom to own a car and use it if you want to without a dictatorial, tyrannical government telling you not to.
You know what I do?
Yeah.
I adapt and evolve.
Huh?
If it's to walk, I walk. If it's best to use the tram, I use the tram. I use a train. Do you know what I don't try and do?
Yeah. Is that in Manchester by any chance?
You know what I did? I went to Malta the other day.
Have you ever been anywhere else except Manchester?
I didn't... Yeah, I just said Malta. Listen.
Oh!
You know what I didn't do?
It was a rare trip out of Manchester, was that?
I didn't drive.
Listen, Steve.
I come to
Steve, I gotta go. It was fun. It was fun. Former Top Gear presenter Steve Berry there, who thinks we should all get on bicycles or walk. How do you feel about that if you're 85? You know, and you've got 6 miles to go into town. Steve wants you to walk, take a bike, or 10 buses. What's that?
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, in the studio is Connie Shaw, External Affairs Officer at the Free Speech Union. Let's talk about Christmas, Connie. The brilliant people at the Brighton and Hove Museums organisation have ordained that Santa Claus is too white, needs to be decolonised in the name of diversity. Apparently his story is a story of Western binary, and that this guy seems to feel he has the right to be a coloniser and have the power to judge all people. They go on to say that Santa's story is a story of the ultimate authority of all societies, and it asks us to accept colonial assumptions of cultural superiority. What is going on?
Sometimes the things that these sorts of people come out with is often best than any parody. And, you know, you read this sort of thing, you just think, surely that's a joke. No, it's real, and you couldn't have even made it up yourself. Obviously, it's ridiculous, and it actually does speak to a wider point that I think is, you know, I know this is kind of a funny story, but I think it does point to a very serious issue we have in the West in general. It's this idea of cultural relativism, that it's impossible to have any moral clarity, because to judge someone for something that may be part of their culture is therefore racist in some way. I don't know, some of your listeners may have seen the article that the Journal of the Institute for Medical Ethics came out with the other day, suggesting that female genital mutilation shouldn't be sort of chastised as much, because actually it's a cultural practice.
Well, it gets a bad press, doesn't it?
Well, I wonder why that is. It's like, and this is how
it
damaging.
It deserves to have a bad press.
This story is funny, but this ideological capture is one of the reasons why it's so difficult to have frank conversations about what really is right and wrong when it comes to different cultures. And that example of the FGM story is a prime example. This is funny, it's ridiculous, but it is a serious issue, and that's part of one of the reasons why the West is in such decline.
Absolutely. Now, on a more practical level, because this is sort of almost enshrined in law, and this concerns the Free Speech Union, if you take the law to its ultimate extent now, the employment rights law, singing various hymns or Christmas specials in the pub at Christmas could entail problems for the landlords. Songs like Jingle Bells, which apparently has racist connotations, God knows why. Do They Know It's Christmas, which stereotypes an entire continent, and Baby It's Cold Outside, which apparently is sexist, and so on and so forth. Now, the singing of these songs over a few beer or mulled wine at the pub, that could technically offend the staff, and they could, as such, sue the landlord for that. This employment rights bill is vast in its remit, and it will also include the fact that if a barman or a barmaid hears a conversation between someone like me and someone else moaning on about the migrant crisis, if they're offended by that, they can sue the landlord. This is ridiculous, is it not?
Yeah, so one of our biggest campaigns this year at the Free Speech Union was about the banter ban, and the banter ban was referring to Clause 20 of the Employment Rights Bill, which has now received royal assent, so it's going to become law. Clause 20 said that employers were liable for the non-sexual third-party harassment of their staff. So that includes overhearing remarks that they may be offended by. And the Lib Dems said, you know, this was confected outrage. What do you mean it's overheard remarks? Actually, the Employment Tribunal has set a precedent that harassment on the basis of your protected characteristics does include overhearing comments, even if they weren't directed at you. And what makes this law so unclear is that the employers are liable to take all reasonable steps to protect their employees from being offended. It's very unclear and it's not clarified what all reasonable steps means. So because now employers are at risk of being sued by their employees, they're essentially incentivised to act in an extremely overzealous way, to the extent that we think that there's all, you know, that could be completely reasonable to employ what we refer to as banter bouncers to make sure that the customers aren't discussing anything that's a bit too offensive. I mean, even the Equality and Human Rights Commission have said this is a bit concerning and may lead to controlling of what people say in pubs. And if there's one place in the whole of Britain, in specific institutions, where one of the last places you think you should be able to have a free and open conversation about religion, politics and cultural events, you'd think it'd be the pub. But even the pubs, you're not allowed anymore under this Labour government to have free conversations in case you offend members of staff, which I think we need to remember. The majority of hospitality staff, I was one of them very recently, are young people. And I tell you, Kevin, when I was working in pubs at the age of 16, 17, I was so woke, I would have sued my employer because of the sort of things that I overheard.
I'm glad you've grown up, Connie. But seriously, the careful landlord, the cautious landlord now will be banning the singing of Christmas favourites at his pub.
If they want to make sure that they are doing everything they can to take all reasonable steps, and I think we need to remember that these Christmas songs, during the Me Too movement about 2017, the song Baby It's Cold Outside, because it's about a man trying to convince a woman to stay over at his house, there was so much backlash against it. And we forget that how much power that cultural movement had at making people feel bad and having to read into everything. And so, yeah, that could plausibly be something that an employee was offended by and could sue their employer over.
And you could, as a barmaid or a barman, you could sue your landlord because you're offended by the cultural stereotyping of an entire continent in Do They Know It's Christmas. I'll tell you what offends me about Do They Know It's Christmas, that Band-Aid song, is this. It's like, do they know it's Christmas time? No, they're Muslims. You know, do you know what I mean? There is a certain amount of assumption in that.
Some parts of Africa.
But hey, they're pop singers. What do you expect? Shakespeare? Connie Shaw from the Free Speech Union. Great to see you and a very happy Christmas to you. And he's in the studio, blast from the past, but it is the excellent Nick de Boer. How are you, Nick?
Brought out of retirement.
Yeah, already. So young.
I know.
What do you got coming up?
Well, I've got the leading Labour rebel who is opposing the abolition of jury trials, and he's coming on to explain why he thinks they can defeat mad David Lammy's plans to actually... you know, David Lammy talks about speeding up the courts, doesn't he? But isn't the bottom line, if you are innocent, you want to put your faith in your peers, not a judge who we sometimes don't have the best record at making decisions. And of course, Kate Nichols joining us because the pubs are rebelling. Rachel Reeves is banned from her own pub. Hospitality, visitor economy, all struggling. She's going to tell us what they need to do.
Yeah, I like that landlord in Leeds banning Rachel Reeves from her local constituency pub. I bet old Rachel's down there like every other night, a couple of pints at the bar, playing darts.
Well, that would explain why she's coming up with such rubbish policies, to be fair.
I'll tell you. Anything else on your show, Nick?
Yes, we're doing a lot more. I've got to look at the head of the Equalities Commission.